wing
If
it.
you can't beat them, then you pop them. You can't man them, then you mop them. You can't stand them, then you drop them. You pop them, cause we pop them like over red and vodka. Young money, C3, okay, a millionaire. I'm a young money millionaire.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm bringing it back, Joey, for Pounding the Table days. I used to say the ladies and gentlemen intro, and then I kind of shut up for the day and let Joey and Tony talk. But today we have two guys over at Stocktwits, Joey Solitro, my good old friend for many years, and Jonathan Morgan in the center, taking the center stage. So welcome, guys. Big week. We had the SpaceX. We had Iran news for now, I say, because I still don't fully believe it's over, but and a lot more. So, Jonathan, welcome. I missed the first time you came on the show, and so I said I got to bring you back.
You know, it felt good. Oh shit! Now I don't remember the crap. Sorry. I felt so good because he reads the newsletter and he said that like I introduced him to Ichimoku, or at least like got him to think more about it, and how he uses it all the time. And that has always been like one of my goals. So now I met a person who I touched on the
touch me. I don't know what it is.
The way that I started to say that, I'll just say there. I'll just stop talking.
All right. So if other people know what that is, then I can look it up on my own time here. What is Ichimoku Moro?
Ichimoku Kinko Hio. It's a Japanese technical analysis trading system. It's listed as an indicator like in TradingView and everywhere else, but it's actually it's a full suite of indicators that comprise a full trading system. And it's from Japan. It's been around since the 60s. Still used a lot. It's very, very useful, very, very powerful. I've always been a huge fan of it, taught it, teach it still, and use it all the time.
Well, I think we'll have to bring you a third time back, and maybe that will be the whole theme, because that sounds interesting. I've never been a charter. I always say I'm all heart, and then I listen to what Joey tells me to buy, and it's been pretty good so far. Joey, you're walking on the treadmill, man. Just the most fit guy on FinTwit. Although Jonah's catching you now. Jonah on the GLP-1s is now catching you.
Jonah's a monster. Yeah, so as long as I'm in the conversation with him, then I'm good with it.
Yeah, exactly. What's been going on over at Stocktwits? I went to the event in New York, was so excited to see Joey. Joey got sick last minute, so was unable to see him. But fun event you guys put on the New York Stock Exchange. That was really cool.
Yeah. So we had our cash tag awards at New York Stock Exchange, and now you'll see we're planning for Stocktoberfest, which we're also returning to New York for. So everybody is going to start getting the comms. You'll get your invite shortly, and doing it all over again.
That was the one in California last time?
Yeah, it's last year was in Coronado, and the thing is, like, our target market's right here in New York, so just bringing it back.
Coronado is the land of the cheapest Coke is $10.
That's about what are we talking Coca-Cola here, or
yes, Coca-Cola.
Okay. I was like, that's about the price of New York. And anyways, moving on to the market. So big news, obviously, this week, SpaceX. Everyone of my friends thought it was overvalued. I got on here and I was like, just because of that reason, I think it's actually going to rip. Jody, if you're listening, I was right. So far, it's now day 2. I think options actually start. Is it today or tomorrow on SpaceX?
I thought it was today.
It might have been today. But so far, it's been ripping. Would love your guys' take on SpaceX, because you never see an IPO this crazy and ever. This is obviously the biggest IPO in history. And then Elon goes, he's obviously has incentives to say it's going to go to 100 trillion, but he's like, I could see this going to 100 trillion in the next 10 years. So that's insane, but would love your guys' take on it.
Yeah, I mean, the valuation, so that's the fun part. So like we always talk valuation, but when you look at just how small the float was, like you could tell retail is going to be all about, buying the hot name, buying into Elon's company. So yeah, it's not surprising. What I found surprising is that they priced at 135 and he was like, that's it. because I thought, if they do some sort of price discovery, initial range could be 135-ish, and then they could have raised it to 150, 160. Like, this could have priced at 200 if he wanted to. I think Elon just knew what he was doing. He's like, no, let's price this reasonable, but still, it was 93, 94 times sales. But now, the recent, his projections, that's what's really setting people up. Is like $1 trillion by 2030 in revenue. And then that number gets to 10 trillion, something insane. The interesting conversation is people talk about, when Tesla and SpaceX will merge. That's got to be in his long-term plan, put his two babies together, eventually buy Boring Company. So he's got his whole master plan kind of comes under one roof. And then it gets rid of the conversation, you're CEO of $2 trillion plus companies. He's like, nope, now it's just one.
Yeah. I mean, that to me, I feel like he's got the people in place over at Tesla now. And his name's still attached. I do think we always said if he got kidnapped or something, God forbid, happened to him, Tesla would drop 30-40% in a day, I think. And so he does get that multiple. It's the Elon effect, but he's done a phenomenal job. Like someone I was talking to was like, look at what the man did with Tesla. Like, you don't think he can do the same thing with SpaceX? And the deals that they're making too on the energy side of things were pretty phenomenal out the gates. And I'm like, okay, maybe you can get there. Jonathan, you got a different take on that?
Not really. I mean, I like to I'm a technicals guy, so I could really give a rat's ass about the underlying. Well, that's not. There's some things that I look at like Intel back in November 2024. I'm like, how? I only saw that because somebody on Stocktwits was talking and it popped up on my feed like it was at like $20 or something. Like, how the hell is this at $20? This makes zero sense. So unless something like that pops up, then I pay attention to fundamentals, but otherwise it's just technicals. And there's a lot of people who are trying, like on the derivatives exchanges, the decentralized derivatives exchanges like Hyperliquid, who are really trying to short this thing. Do I think it's overvalued? Yeah. Do I want to short it sometime? Yeah. Right now? No. I don't remember what father of markets said it, but like the market can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. So this is not even stepping in front of a freight train, really. It's like stepping in front of a big ass rocket. You'll get bloated up. And
it is wild.
With a lot of shorts.
They're worth more than Amazon.
Like, if you look at Tesla, when has that ever been inexpensive? It's always been a very expensive stock. So, I mean, it's going to be the same type of thing. Plus, you kind of have to give it that monopoly multiple to where, Shopify is always traded at a significant premium just because it has such a large market share. You look at Axon with like the body cams and tasers, they just have such a large market share. It can trade at a premium. SpaceX, when you look at its market share of all the businesses involved in, it's very dominant. So even assigning a premium there, it's hard to wrap your head around the current valuation. But like you said, it's that Elon Musk being attached to it that, he'll do anything to make the stock go up.
Yeah. You were just talking Intel. I was trying to find the exact number. Someone did a like $260 million call. Did you see that?
I remember something about it, but yeah, I mean, Intel. There's a part of my brain, like my old school analyst like stuff where you like think about like the risk side of things that people don't think about. So like data centers are popping up all over the place. I'm from rural America. People don't like them because they make a lot of freaking noise. All right. If you've ever heard one before, you don't want to be near one anywhere. So, but here's the deal. They're putting them up because a landowner says, cool, they build it. I don't think these entities understand the mindset of like small town rural people, because if they don't like it, they will just take Mr. Toyota Tundra, Ford F-150, throw some chains and start ripping shit out. And I highly doubt there's going to be anybody that's going to put them on a jury and have somebody from their hometown say, oh, I saw Bill do that. Yep. So they're going to be out billions of dollars on that data center just because like they pissed off the wrong people. Also, I have a very hard time believing that this is the apex of our technology. Energy and power, they travel to the inverse. That has always been the thing. We've required like less energy to have more output from computational power. I think it's almost kind of weird. Like I would imagine in maybe less than 10 years, we're going to laugh about us building these huge warehouses with GPUs to do stuff. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff happening in universities and in private research labs that are answering the question of how to make this cheaper. Like RAM is stupidly expensive still. Like though the scarcity creates what is that phrase? The scarcity is the thing that makes people innovate.
Yeah. I mean, here throughout society, I mean, how many times in 2020 do we say that we're never going to see a market like that again? And then the last couple of weeks have been like insane until we had that Friday drop. I mean, I tend to agree with you. I think overall, I mean, there's so much money in power that I know Google came out with something that I don't think they've released it yet, but that was the big drop on Micron a few weeks back when they were talking about they'd get like 6 times their value on energy or something. They're sorry for memory. And so, yeah, I mean, technology will advance, but you'd think that the hyperscalers will get their hands on that the fastest, right? And so they'll continue to scale. So yeah, it is interesting. I pulled up that trade. So it's 241 million, excuse me, of INTC calls for September. 97 strikes. Yeah. So that's in the money. So I guess it's not as crazy, but directionally you're feeling good. Have you been following these Trump trades, and what are your thoughts on presidents helping their bags here?
At least he's transparent about it.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's not really doing anything that is like out of the realm of like, oh, this is sneaky what he's doing. No, it's pretty much he's pretty much advertising through his family or surrogates that like what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't think politicians like that. He's just doing that, and people are mostly like whatever.
Yeah.
Like what are they going to say?
That's a great point. I mean, because we brought on Chris from Pelosi Tracker at one point, and I think what they're doing now with autopilot is so cool. Just like calling out politicians, bringing it to the forefront. That's still, I think, 14 days behind though, or so it's not like as 100% accurate as real time Trump going on the news and telling you to buy Dell or Intel or whatever.
Yeah,
but
the filings that they have to do lag a lot. Now there's like some bill. It's not a current one, but it's been floating around like every year to like get rid of that.
Yeah.
For politicians, where hey, if Nancy and Bert are selling something or buying something, everybody should know about it that day.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be able to front run the trade for 2 weeks.
Well, especially if they're making the bills. I mean, that's a no brainer. I think I'd imagine at least 90% of America would agree that if you have inside info on a bill, you or your husband should not be able to trade that.
It technically, a lot of it doesn't technically fall under inside information. Right. So if you're in Congress, you're like, hey, what is Pat going to do? What is Bill going to do? That's not insider info. That's all speculative. In essence, they're speculating on what their peers are going to vote on. That's not really insider information because you don't know what's going to happen. Or maybe it's like unless it's like in a committee where the committee votes on it and you expect everybody.
That happened with the Circle during I forget if it was the last Clarity Act when they were supposed to pass it and it didn't pass. I remember the information leaked while they were still in the session, and no one like talked about that really. I brought it up on one podcast, but no, we don't have enough listeners to make a splash there. But I thought that was pretty fascinating. Joey, I do want to hit on this Reddit trade because that was we've talked about that a few times on our podcast, but not with you on, and you were the one that gave me the idea. So what do you love about Reddit right now? What are the dates exactly? I don't know if you need to know the exact date, but when are they up for renewals? Because the two big stories were they're going to be renewing with all the AI companies and then the Anthropic legal battles, right?
Yeah, so it's a pairing of things with them. So first, you've got a company trading at, now I think it was originally like 21 or 20 when we were talking last on the podcast, but now it's 24.8 times next 12 months price to earnings, while it's going to grow at a 56% clip. So you've already got one of the best growth stocks trading at a significant discount to where it should. But yeah, like you said, so they've got renewals that should be being negotiated right now with both Gemini at Google and ChatGPT, OpenAI. And I mean, I've seen, I think it was RBC put out one where, you know, they were making like $60 million a year on this, and they think it could be renewed for anywhere from 300 million to up to $500 million. But then they had this active lawsuit with Anthropic where Reddit accused them of scraping their data and training their LLMs. It got pushed back to the state, which I think is California. And apparently that's very friendly towards like the business itself. So chances are, I mean, this is what we were talking about before. You know, Anthropic filed confidentially to go public. They probably don't want a lawsuit, you know, actively against them as they come public. So whether they admit fault or not, they could settle this and then just sign a data licensing deal as well. So Brad Freeman, we had him on, and then he did a write-up, and he was saying, like, you know, if LLMs are Texas, then Reddit's the oil, because this is the data that they're all trained on. So they all want access to that. And, you know, it's text-based conversation. Like, this is exactly what you want to feed LLMs. And what's good for Reddit is that's like a 99-point-something% profit margin for them. So they sign these deals, go straight to the bottom line. And Jonah actually had a good idea. He had posted on Twitter, what if Gemini or one of these companies wants an exclusive deal with them, signs a significantly larger agreement with them to do so, and then takes a stake in Reddit as part of it? I could also see that happening. I'd prefer if they're licensing their data to all the major LLMs, just because, you know, they're like the Switzerland of data. But, you know, even if they renewed this for just, you know, a small increase from what they were doing before, this is still an absolute growth machine. And every time I look at it, you know, I have to stop myself from buying more, just because, I mean, you look at, they're going to grow their earnings at 56% clip in 2026, 28% 2027, and then it's over 20% again in 2028. Like, and that's while free cash flow margins are expected to expand to 40%. So this is just a free cash flow machine that is growing so fast. And for this to be only a, what is it now, $35 billion company makes absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah, you saw me. I see Jonathan looking up charts in the background. He's pulling up, fact checking you, I think. You sold on Reddit, Jonathan? What are we missing?
Oh, so
you can play the bear case too.
My bear case would be that Google or whoever's taking all that data is going to have to like fish through the bullshittery that is in all the text. So in on-chain analytics platforms in crypto, like Masari, Sentiment, Into the Block, you know, they most of them have these social sentiment scores in which they're scraping text and language that they can scrape from like Telegram channels. Reddit is a big one, and it's all very dirty data because you have a lot of bots, you have a lot of people like posting using words that are assigned high values that kind of pollute the sentiment of the. Anyways, they're gonna have to figure out some way. Somebody's gonna have to figure it out. And whatever entity does that, they're going to keep it a very close secret. Yeah, that's the only part.
And I wonder how much leverage Google will have, or like against Google, right? Because like Google's got 25 years of trillions of emails that they can go through for NLP, and like the reviews as well. They like birthed the internet, right? So that could be interesting. I'm long Reddit. I like the trade too, heading in with those two catalysts and the cash flow. So I agree, but I wonder if Gemini deal will be as big as we think. Would be.
I mean, I love Reddit, but like using them as a source, it's gonna be fine. But I mean, I don't know this shit. So they're much smarter people who know this. But I know in my use case that I've used it for, as far as how these on-chain analytics platforms have filtered it for however they're scoring it, it's not very efficient. And not to like toot Stocktwits' horn, our social and sentiment scores are like they're very much in-house, and it's our own algorithm. And we've had, for stocks, we've had data for like 15-ish years, almost 15 years. I mean, it's a lot more clean data set because it's not, you don't have like anybody and everybody. People come to Stocktwits for a particular reason. People go to Reddit for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
But
I will say I use it as like the most trustworthy. I feel like if I'm like, is this restaurant good? I'll like check and I'll type in Reddit because I want the Reddit like real reviews, where I feel like some of like the Google reviews are fake or, just, I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe that's my position talking here.
No, I do that too. Whenever I don't Google, I'll use Google to like ask a question with Reddit next to it, so it pulls up the Reddit, most relevant Reddit thread.
Yeah, I've done that. We didn't touch on this though. The SpaceX they just buy. I just saw this morning. Cursor. So I mean, they're just filled with cash right now. $60 billion for Cursor, which is these numbers. It feels like money's not real, and we talk about Bitcoin.
Didn't Elon Musk's net worth like go up? All of Warren Buffett's net worth
yesterday.
There's been some like crazy stats. Like statistically, all of us are closer to Bezos' net worth than Bezos is to Elon Musk. His net worth is now more than Bitcoin's entire market cap. I mean, these are some crazy numbers.
I was shocked that they actually got Cursor to agree to that before the IPO. It was like they could pay $50 billion now or $60 billion at some point in the next year. So, I mean, if you look at everything SpaceX is doing, and I mean, I feel like Cursor, if they went public, they could easily command probably more than 60 billion. So why not just take these guys under, and you just got another very high growth segment within this whole SpaceX, XAI, Twitter, like everything that's involved in it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, especially if they go and do what you're saying with buying Tesla. I've heard that rumor a lot. Don't you think it would take like a year or two in court to like go sort through all of that though?
Yeah, well, it's that, would the Department of Justice try to block it? I mean, that would be such a
monopoly.
But if you look, I saw someone kind of map out, what Elon Musk's whole master plan was, and it was, to shoot his rockets up, whether it's to the moon or Mars, with these Optimus robots, and then use the Boring Company to tunnel in Mars and stuff and build his colonies, all this stuff. So it would take all of his companies under one roof. Now they could always partner to do it, but it'd be cooler if it's all one company.
Why do we want to go? I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's fucking awesome. Like, that's why, pardon my French. But I think it's sweet. But also, why? Like, we've had robots on Mars. There's not a lot there for us to get or do, unless it's unless it's like solar, space-based solar power. That's the only thing that I can think of, because Elon's always hinted at how much energy the sun produces and how little of it we get here. But if they were to do the space mirrors where they can isolate the rays forever, and then you'd get like at least 70% of the output somehow, which would probably just like burn a hole through the whole planet. But some way to harness the solar energy, you'd have to but Mars is the opposite direction of the sun, so that part doesn't make sense to me either.
If the bunkers don't hold for the billionaires, they got to have some escape route. But yeah, I mean, I don't know enough about life on Mars to have an educated conversation on this. But yeah, maybe there is water on Mars, so there's no life. Life could not exist on Mars.
Aliens probably live in the place of the planet that we don't even explore, our oceans. We know so little about our own oceans. That's probably where the aliens are, and they're probably tricking us all. Like, look at these idiots that think everything's up there where nothing is, and I hope that they're just controlling all of us from down in the oceans. That's what's going on.
That's from what was that movie we just watched? Wakanda 2. The ocean life was there.
That's really a thing?
Well, it's a made-up movie, but in the movie,
I got it from a book. I think it's Jeremy Robertson book is about that.
Well, that did sell me on a long-term stock I have is Kraken Robotics. Obviously, like the news inspired that with all the underwater mines during Iran, but I started digging into it more and more, and I was like, okay, like
it is pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I was like, this is fascinating, and like we're gonna be on water a lot more than we'll be in space over the next 20 years. So I agree. What else newsworthy am I missing here today? What's on your minds?
BlackRock came out with their Bitcoin income ETF. I'm writing about it in today's newsletter, but I mean,
give us the preview then of the article here.
It's basically I think the ticker's, let me get it right, BIT A, and essentially it's income from covered calls, and for those of you who don't know, like a covered call is like, so let's say I want to sell my house, or somebody wants to buy it, and I'm like, hey, 500K. And we sign a contract that says, if it gets that or higher, then he gets to own it. But in the meantime, he has to pay me 10 grand. So that's like a covered call. So if it doesn't get up to $500,000 within a certain date that we've agreed upon, I keep the 10 grand. But if it gets to 500K or higher, he has the right to purchase my home from me at a discount to the price that it is at there. So that's essentially what BlackRock is doing. BlackRock, they're a custodian, a market maker. I mean, why not have something where you make more money on holding it? And it's good for them.
Yeah, I was telling you with MSTR, there was a MSTY. So Misty was a hot stock that was talked about for a while. And the dividends kind of almost what he's doing as well with Stretch kind of right now. Like you got to pay those dividends out, and the stock price, is going down. So do you think the similar thing will happen with the stock, or you think BlackRock's? No,
BlackRock's treating Bitcoin like an asset, whereas Michael Saylor is treating everybody who buys his stuff as exit liquidity. I know of no reason why anybody who wants to own Bitcoin would own it, or not even own it, but like have exposure to it through an intermediary like strategy. It makes zero sense to me. It is the dumbest dumb thing on the planet. Michael Saylor's awesome for Bitcoin, as long as it goes through strategy. Otherwise, you could probably give a rat's ass.
Yeah, I mean, we've had many discussions with Joey, and I've never been able to like articulate besides if they become a bank and they start lending it out and Bitcoin becomes pretty ubiquitous over the next 10, 15 years, but it's a long trade. And I think I'm underwater on it. So you're talking to one of the idiots that went to his conference and sucked it all up. And the story made sense when you're with him.
He's such a good communicator. He's such a good salesman, and he gets you sold on Bitcoin. But the whole point is like he's like, yeah, but you don't have to own it yourself because that's really difficult to do. As if it's like if it's some like really hard thing, like you have to go to a bank and open a checking account in person or something. It's not that difficult to own it. But I mean, he's like, just do it
prior to the ETFs, for sure. I mean, I think MSTR was your exposure if you didn't want to like pull money out of your 401k.
It was the only one, but otherwise
that's why I did it initially, because I was like, I'm long Bitcoin. I don't want to I have this money in an old 401k, and I bought like an idiot at the top. So I'm still underwater, pretty heavy on those. But long term, I think I'll be okay. But I have not bought more MSTR. So
this is like when we were having the conversation. He was trading like 1.4 times NAV, and I was like, well, if you think Bitcoin's going to $1 million, why do you want to buy it at a premium through MSTR? And then it quickly goes to where it's like 0.9. And the sales rep here at Stocktwits, he was bullish MSTR at like 400, and I was trying to tell him, I was like, I don't see it. Then of course it goes to 100, and he's like, what about now? I was like, well, now like it kind of proves my point. Why would I touch that? Yes, Bitcoin's come down, but if you think Bitcoin's going to $1 million or 10 million or something like that, buy Bitcoin. It's not hard anymore. And you've got all these different avenues to do it. I just don't understand. Plus, I love that whole interview he had after they sold 32 Bitcoin. He's like, I told you not to sell your Bitcoin.
Yeah, that was
sell ours. And I was like, all right, that's the last.
I feel like he audibled his own idea, like telling a joke. but he wasn't good at telling the joke, and it was not the right time to do that.
Well, yeah, I also didn't love that. It was like, was it Skills? I think back in the day, I was like, as soon as I saw him buying, the stock price was down like 60%. And the CEO was taking pictures of him buying, he was going on a private jet. He's buying a brand new house, like on his Instagram. And I was like, this is sending me the wrong message. Like I'm out. Same thing with Taylor. I said, if he ever like sold, then it like invalidates the thesis that they have enough operational cash to continue going. He's found a glitch right now with STRC, but it's still not back at par. I think let's see, it was at 95 yesterday. So they're going to have to raise the rates to get more people in. So it's like he's starting to eat himself too with that. I think eventually they become a bank, but we shall see.
They'll have to do something, because you just have entities that like BlackRock who specialize in this kind of stuff, like turning assets into an income product, and yeah, it's just strategy. I don't get it. It's great for exposure of Bitcoin and crypto in general, but as a vehicle for owning, I don't get the point.
My conspiracy is the government takes MSTR at some point for national defense, and Sailor works for the CIA. So hot takes coming from the show today.
Aliens.
I've said it too many times offline, so I needed to say it where I can go back and be like, I told you guys, this is so inevitable. Yeah. So oil's down. Anything else breaking here over the? What do you guys see through the end of the year? I mean, we got midterms coming up in November, and midterm season's always interesting as we head into that. We're starting to market usually trades 6 months in advance, and so we're heading into that phase now.
As far as like crypto's concerned, cyclically, time cycle wise, September is the we're probably in the ugly phase. The ugly phase for crypto is never like when it's going down. It's when it just like false breakouts above and below, where you get everybody that's where everybody gets chopped around and yeah. So September is what I'm looking at as far as for the crypto market. Also the altcoin, like alt season, I don't know if that's ever going to be a thing again. We'll probably get one more, but there's a lot of maturity in the altcoin space when it comes to the ones that are still like in the top 100 and what their use case. A lot of them have a use case. They have customers. If you want to call them customers, people are using those networks for certain reasons. Yeah, it's just you basically there's a lot of blockchain companies that are companies that in any other
Chainlink.
time,
I think Chainlink's doing some pretty interesting stuff.
Chainlink has like won the crypto side of things where like you integrate traditional finance and crypto. Chainlink has won that. It's crazy to me that Chainlink is the price that it is. If it was a stock and if it was just like as a technology company, it would not be where it's at. Chainlink is, in my opinion, not Stocktwits, is insanely undervalued, and I just hope it stays lower longer. That's
it's the besides Bitcoin, it's the one that I think I have $2,000 in it, so nothing of significance. But it was one that when I was in the space, I was like, they keep doing really cool partnerships. They got in with Google pretty early as well. I remember. Now
they do a lot of the settlement with Polymarket now. I think they've already settled like $9 billion worth of volume on Polymarkets, and that stuff hasn't even priced in or even noticed because it didn't move at all when that news came out. So you have a lot of people who are primarily speculators in crypto who have gone to speculate in other places, whether that's traditional assets on Hyperliquid or betting markets or prediction markets. Eventually things just kind of rotate, capital rotates and flows back in at some point.
I should know the answer to this, being in the space as long as I have, but can they like do buybacks like in a similar sense?
I don't think so. I know.
Okay. Maybe it wasn't.
Maybe I'm way off on this because I haven't like looked into it. But you can stake Chainlink, but there's only a certain amount that can be staked. I believe most of that is insider. And there was a time when people would be like, "Oh, Chainlink is so centralized. It's not decentralized. It's evil." Well, now people really don't care. I mean, because there's definitely something to be said for these blockchains that have had some type of management or entity or person who's been responsible for getting it out there to companies or entities to be used, because 100% decentralization has just like not done a lot for like Cardano, for example. And I've been a huge Cardano bull for years, but boy oh boy, it's been like one of the biggest disappointments of my trading investing where it's just like gone down to hell, which is weird because it's very advanced. It's a fantastic technology, but it's 100% decentralized, and there's nobody with enough money, capital, or belief that thinks it's that good to like go approach traditional finance or get some use case under it.
Yeah. Well, Charles, I saw him have a freak out, basically telling the Cardano listeners, he's like, guys, it's not like I have billions of dollars of this, you know? I always looked around at these conferences, sadly, and I was like, we'll see 50 new companies that got VC money next year, you know, and it was right. And like they got smaller and smaller. And that's when I moved mostly to Bitcoin. I was like, okay, Bitcoin is the one. If I've been in the space long enough, I need to stick behind. And yeah, we'll see. It's basically like so interesting because I agree with you. If it was a stock, it'd be so much higher. So it'll be interesting to see if other people catch on here. What are your expectations here for the new Fed chair? You think he's going to come in and raise rates and piss off Trump? I can't see him raising rates.
No.
Warsh has been a fan of the. He's been a fan of the. What's the other inflationary measurement? It's the one that's like you take out like the top and the bottom, and then reasons of inflation, and then you just look at it like it's within normal limits. You know, all the Fed chairs since before Greenspan. And I don't know if maybe forever have always said they wait for the data. So they wait for the lagging data to show up whether to make a decision. I don't know if Warsh is that kind of guy where, you know, everybody and their dog knows if you were to just discount energy prices, things, you know, yeah, there's still inflation. There's always inflation, but is it as bad? No.
Come to New York, it is. I paid $14 for a juice the other day. So
good God.
You can find inflation. We spent a lot of money at the World Cup too, watching at a bar. So it happens fast here in New York. But maybe Middle America is a little easier right now.
I don't know. It sucks all over. But I don't know if he's. I don't know. Yeah, because the other governors have a say too. So who knows? If anything, I bet they just do zero.
Yeah. Well, if you guys got anything else, we can stick around. Otherwise, I got Sniper not coming on until 2:30 Eastern, so we're going to take a quick break from the show. But any closing words from the Stocktwits boys?
I mean, the one company I've found interesting that I was looking at deeper today, I mean, good old Netflix. So this one popped up. You know, it sold off heavy after the Warner Brothers acquisition, and then that got nixed, and they got their breakup fee from Paramount. It ran from like 80s to over 100. Now it's back down to 78, trading at 23, 24 times this year's earnings, which with that fee included and some other stuff, it's going to grow earnings, north of 30% today. So this one, it's just interesting. So I got to dig a little bit deeper. But I mean, this is one of the companies I owned from 2011 to 2021, something like that, and then shifted that capital elsewhere. So I always regretted having to sell it just to fund other.
Are they making money from their video games? Because I remember talking about that in Pounding the Table days. This is like years ago when they finally went to video games. But like, is that even live? Or I always
see it. I always see it on the app whenever I'm like just turning something on for the kids.
I love that
Never-
news out of the gates.
any of
And I
them?
never heard from it.
But yeah, I mean, this is one of those, they just keep raising our prices, but we have to keep it because between me and, the kids, everything, people got their shows that they want to watch on there. But, amongst them, the other thing that I've been finding interesting, everybody's looking for, these stocks that are surging. Everybody wants to own memory stocks and hyperscalers, all these different data center plays. But then you've got, Amazon that's pulled back pretty significantly from its high. You've got Microsoft back at 391, pretty attractive valuation. Meta under 600 when you look at, its valuation, kind of absurd. So it's interesting to see you've got certain stocks, popping 10% every day. It's almost like it's sucking the capital out of mega caps. When I'm more like, all right, I'm kind of in the de-risking mindset because we've talked about it time and time again in our group chat where, this market just doesn't feel like real life.
Yeah.
We get these massive swings like NBIS from, well, we were talking about that at 60 something and now you got it at 270. You've just seen these, can't even call it really multiple expansion in those names, just absolute parabolic surges across certain names. But these mega caps are the ones that are going to benefit the most.
Yeah.
And here we have them now. Their valuations are getting more and more attractive.
That was I brought it up the past like 10 podcasts, but the Chris Camello podcast where he was talking about the move to Amazon because it's going to be these hyperscalers that will benefit long tail from the AI. And one thing you didn't bring up with Netflix is think about their huge cost center of content. And now if people are like become normalized watching AI movies, which I don't think we're too far off from, they could just pump content out for significantly cheaper than they were paying before. So that's massive. And then you think about where you can go from there with like the games too. If the games does ever take off, they can license all that, as well. So actually, Netflix is getting attractive. I agree. I haven't looked
I think
at it.
I think it's horrifying, but also awesome because it's crazy that we're getting to a point where the limitations of a person's creativity and something they would like to do is no longer being like bottlenecked by, well, money and other people. I mean, if you have like some type of idea or thing that you want to create and you think people are going to love it, then now you don't have to have.
Call it the revenge of the sales guys, because like the revenge of the nerds when all the developers were really cool getting the hot chicks. Now the sales guys can have an idea and boom. Like I make songs on Sono every day.
Oh.
You come up with an idea, you throw it through ChatGPT or Claude and be like, make a cool song, then put it, within 2 minutes, I can have an idea, write the song, make the song, and they're good, and it's pretty crazy.
But to answer your question about the thing that like what, and we never talk, people don't really ever talk about it. They talk about it every once in a while, like, and it's come up more in the last 5 years than a lot of other times. But if you pull up the JXY, that is the yen index. There is not a chart on the planet or event on the planet that makes me more nervous than that chart. It is fucking scary. It is creepy. They did a rate hike. They had, I don't know how many billions in intervention recently, and all it's done is parked like right on 62. And you need like a whole session to go into like how important the yen is. And it's looking, I mean, in foreign currency trading, we call it the widowmaker because everybody for years has like always said like, oh, yes, that is the chart. If you go to the monthly chart, it's a quite scary chart.
Where's the
where it says D? If you click on the next to the JXY, the plus sign right there, then go to monthly. Scroll all the way out. Look at that beast. This is a frightening chart. Now the yen it's called something. It's in foreign currencies. It's called a dirty float, which means that central banks or other entities can intervene outside of market hours and do things. So like the Ministry of Finance or the Bank of Japan, they can, which they do. They will tell the public, we might do something, and then they do something over the weekend and it goes absolutely nuts. However, for whatever reason, these days people are like, we don't think that's going to help. and clearly it's not. And there will be a credit crisis, a dollar. It's a contagion that is, I hope people in power around the globe in central banks are, at least trying to mitigate the damage that could happen if this absolutely falls off a cliff. It is a scary ass chart, and people don't care about it right now because it hasn't done anything. And I hope it never does. But oh man, if you're looking at something that could like make things go boom overnight, this is the chart that will do it.
And we'll all use Bitcoin as the main currency, right?
I don't know what we'd use.
That's when you need the bunker. That's why SpaceX is so valued, right? People are planning their escape. Yeah, I hope that doesn't happen. That is a scary chart, though. And you're right. I don't pay nearly enough attention to this, nor does I think 90% of FinTwit probably does not either.
But if something bad happens, everybody's wondering. This is actually one of those things where people who are speculating in crypto and stocks, if everything's like collapsing, people are going to be like Googling, why is this? And they're going to look at a news story and it's not going to make any sense. They're going to say, oh, it's because the stock market was up this high, it wasn't be this. And then eventually halfway through the day, people are going to be able to like, oh, somebody talked about this one point. And then it'll be like on Fox Business and CNBC. Somebody there will wisen up and point to it. But I hope it doesn't happen because, folks, that is not a thing we want to have to go through. I really hope there is like this hidden swap between the Fed and the Bank of Japan that people have always said exists to mitigate this problem. But, it is not looking good.
Joey, can you bring us some optimism here to end the show?
I mean, people haven't cared about it yet, so hopefully they just keep not caring about it.
Money doesn't feel real. We've probably said that 100 times in the last week in the chat. Like,
I mean, it's not real. You run out of money, you print more.
Right.
And
yeah.
What was Tony's old thing? The whole world is just one big Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, he was right.
And you look at the global debt, it's like we owe that to aliens. So I mean, yeah, none of it makes sense.
I mean, this is the good news, is that in the event of some type of if the yen were to collapse and there's a total unwinding of credit, people will still want to speculate and they'll want to go someplace safe. And if you live in the U.S., if you're exposed to U.S. capital markets, this is the safest place on the planet to have them. And if you're like, well, I don't know about that, whoever controls the seas controls the world's trade. We don't have a whole bunch of aircraft carrier fleets basically protecting the world's trade for no reason. If you want to get hyper nationalistic and critical and be a bully, we could do it. Probably won't. But if you're in the U.S., you have most everything exposed. It's going to go down if the yen collapses. But is it going to go down as much as everything else? No.
No. Crazy times we live in, of course, as always. But Jonathan, Joey, thanks so much for coming on the pod. We are going to play a old podcast that I thought was really cool for the next hour until we start again with Sniper at 2:30. But this one's pretty interesting. It's talking about Bitcoin, when payments fail, people die in Africa. Really, really insightful speaker. So if you didn't see it on Monday or last week, you can watch it again here in just a second. So thanks, guys, for coming on. We'll be back live at 2:30.
And talking about this payments failing in Africa.
So how do we do that? Very simply put, we have SMME loans.
We've never done that.
18 to 20% per annum interest rate on a loan in South Africa. It's probably the most competitive that you can find. Bitcoin is to an African what insulin is to a diabetic. We're looking at how many jobs does one Bitcoin generate in Africa. So we have this like broad back of a napkin math that says 1 Bitcoin equals like 5 to 8 African jobs. Bitcoin's come along, and Bitcoin's weird. When we looked at it, we were like, whoa. So this piece of collateral, I can take anywhere in the world and I can lend against it conservatively and extract fiat out of it. Sub 5%. You guys talk about debasement and we laugh. You talk about debasement like 4% a year.
We pop 'em like overridden vodka. C3, okay, a millionaire. I'm a young money millionaire.
Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Daily Stack. Today, I'm here with Stafford Masie. How are you?
Very well, thanks. Look, I'm a huge fan. I've been following you since your first post about Bitcoin. Like I said to you in the opening, I've got 3 daughters. I got a 9-year-old, I got a 23-year-old, and a 26-year-old. So seeing someone that's your age, graduating from university and being so financially literate within a Bitcoin context was inspiring. And just well done for all the things that you do. I mean, I think you're inspiring a generation of people your age, and we need more of you. So yeah, it's great.
Thank you very much. That is so kind. I love to hear that, and love to hear that you have 3 daughters. That's awesome. How are they? Are they receptive to Bitcoin?
Yes, they are, and they're Bitcoiners. You know, I took them a few years ago. I've been in Bitcoin since 2014, and they always thought I was crazy, but I think it was during COVID or maybe just before COVID, I took them to lunch and I was like, okay, girls, I need to teach you about money. My 9-year-old's been like, I think she was like 3 when I used to ask her, what's Bitcoin? And I think there's videos on Facebook where she goes, Dad, it's digital gold. So she's been going to school, telling kids at a school about Bitcoin. But yeah, my kids have been in Bitcoin. They save in Bitcoin. They're Bitcoiners. They think about the world as Bitcoin. You know, the whole notion of, I love it when they repeat it and they say, no, the groceries are not getting more expensive. The money is getting weaker. I love it when it comes out of their mouths because they speak about it so natively. And over the years, I've just seen how the world is different for them versus their fiat friends. Right? Their fiat friends are stressed. Their money doesn't go anywhere, etc. You know, like every year they've seen things get cheaper in their world, right? So they've seen Dad's house was like 2,000 Bitcoin when they began, and then Dad's house became like hundreds of Bitcoins, and now Dad's house is like single digits Bitcoins. So for them in their world, they actually have perspective now because of the years that they've been in it to take a look at the sats, the Bitcoins that they've saved, and they can actually see the world getting cheaper. And that's very, very inspiring to see people that are native. They don't have any skeuomorphic issue. They don't have like a fiat lens that they look at the world through. So they just can't, they struggle. They got it quickly. They got it fast. And they understand in that work. And that's kind of, I would say that's the general experience in Africa. And that's why Bitcoin's so popular in Africa. I find when I go to the Northern Hemisphere, to like the USA, you know, even in South Africa, you know, you go to the more wealthy folks and you talk about Bitcoin, they really struggle with it, right? They, because it's speculative, is it that? But when you go to someone where I grew up in El Dorado Park that walks around there, some African man just, and you stop him and you go, can I tell you about this thing? And you go back to the bare principles of what Bitcoin is, that human being will get it in 5 minutes and it will set.
Yeah.
And they'll get it. So like, because there's no lens, they understand broken money. They understand, you know, confiscation. They understand sovereignty. They understand immutability. They understand the notions of, you know, conveying this thing independent of a third party, needing it to clear. Those basic things that we tend to forget in Bitcoin land today, those basic principles and premises are still very apparent to us because we live in a world where I always say, you guys talk about debasement and we laugh because you talk about debasement like 4% a year, 2% a year, 3% a year. You know, where we live, debasement 4% per hour, per day.
Wow.
That's the world where we live. So when you live in a world that debases in that way, where a general can take over the title deed of your home, where a military spokesperson can take your money, where your money fluctuates the way it does, when you suddenly get something like Bitcoin, you get it. You get it in a second. But where you are, you know, you almost have to be Halston that kind of read the books, got it, and then you're like unique amongst your peer group, right?
Yeah.
Over here, you wouldn't be unique. We get broker money.
I think we're a little too spoiled over here in the US, at least. It's so funny you say that. I completely agree. It's interesting. Like my dad, who has worked in tech, like worked in Microsoft for many years, like refuses to understand Bitcoin the way that you and I understand it. I talk about Bitcoin with my grandmother, who's full Brazilian, came to America to live out the American dream. She gets it so fast because she escaped hyperinflation. So yeah, it's so crazy to see that. I think on that note too. Yeah. You've stated before that when payments fail in Africa, people die. Can you unpack this dire reality of just the broken fiat plumbing in Africa and explain how Bitcoin fixes this?
So if you take a look at my background, I mean, one of the things that I did is I got involved in the fintech space before it had the name fintech. So we built a little device that plugged into a phone that converted a phone into a card acceptance machine. It was more or less the time when Square was starting to be known, where Jack Dorsey started showing that little white dongle that plugged into the video jack. We were building the more difficult version of that down here. We were an EMV PCI. We had chip and pin cards. So our dongle didn't look like Jack's dongle. He just had to swipe the card because you guys were on mag swipe. You hadn't converted your cards to the chip card yet. And I had to build that there. But the origins of that business, that technology birthed because of an experience that I had. And that experience, I've spoke to folks a couple of times about this, but I was sitting in a government official's office, and I'm going to keep the story short, but a black lady walked in, and she had a baby wrapped in a blanket on her back, and she was in tears. And we had the meeting with the senior government official, and when she came into the reception, everything stopped. She was screaming, she was distraught. It was very traumatic. And the secretary of this government official said, look, well, we're not going to be able to do your meeting. We have to see her. She went inside, door closed. And I asked the secretary, and I said, the receptionist, what happened? Why was she so distraught? She told me the story. She said that we sent someone out, local municipality person, local government person, to switch off her utilities because she had not paid us. She had a bank account. She had cards. She had a wallet. She had all the means. She had the funds. But the problem was she gave birth to twins. And because they switched off her utilities, she couldn't get up because during childbirth, she was hurt during childbirth, giving birth to twins. So she couldn't go make the payment physically. She couldn't get up to go make the payment. So she had a bank account, she had cards, she had money. And when they switched off her utilities, one of her kids died because of exposure.
Wow.
And I sat there and I was like, whoa, wait, I need to fix this. So I actually coagulated a bunch of engineers and we sat in my lounge and we said, okay, what can we do to overcome this challenge? And that's what I talk about. When payments don't work in Africa, people die. And I say that with great gravity. For us, it's not a game, right? When I grew up, my granny used to catch 2 taxis, a bus, etc., to get to a municipal office to pay a bill. When you fix payment, when you fix value exchange, life is fundamentally changed. And so for us, money has it's got more of a human aspect to it than it has just an economic aspect to it. Because we feel broken money in a very tangible way. We live broken. We understand broken money. And our informal economy in Africa is massive. I mean, in South Africa, the informal economy, we call it informal. But I would argue, I grew up in the informal economy. I would argue that informality is, on a structural basis, actually a lot more sophisticated in many ways than the formal economy. For me, an ATM when I grew up was a human being. I went to her house and I could go to her house at 11 o'clock at night on a Saturday. I could knock on her window. She'd open up and say, what do you need? And I'd say, well, I want a bar of soap. I want a packet of rice, and my dad wants 100 Rand. She'd give me all of those goods. I walk away. She'd tap me in the shoulder saying, remember, your dad needs to pay me back 110 Rand on Wednesday.
Wow.
When I looked over her shoulder, on her kitchen table were mounds of cash piled up. No one would touch it because that was the community's money. When someone died and needed money for a funeral, that's where they went. At 2 a.m. in the morning, if you needed money, you went to her and you knocked on the window and you got money. For me, that was a lot more sophisticated, more secure, more impactful, more humanistic than the formal economy. We had a bank card and an ATM that was very clinical and very and even there, banking hours, etc. So for us, the informal economy is quite sticky. The informal economy is very fluid, more humanistic, a lot more sophisticated. And in fact, the informal economy in Africa supports most of the jobs. There's some calculations that says the informal economy in South Africa is arguably 30 times the size in GDP versus the formal economy.
Wow.
It employs 73% of the population in the informal economy. But we can't measure it because it's cash driven.
Yeah.
It's pure cash. So there's no metrics. We can't see it because it's not electronic. So when you go into that world, it's a very different world in terms of how money moves in that world and all the intricacies associated with it. And that's why the opportunity coming back to Africa Bitcoin Corporation is so significant for us, because that informal economy has very sophisticated businesses that have been built up in very sophisticated ways.
Yeah.
And when a business like that wants funding or lending, you need to understand on a ground level how that works and operates. But when you look into it, you can loan out at very securitized rates and securitized means, because those businesses have so much collateral. You just have to look into them a little bit. And when you can support them, it's extraordinary what happens when you support them. The unlock that lays dormant there. That's in South Africa, but that's across the entire African continent. And so people always look at Africa and they look at the townships and they look at the informality of it. But when you actually look into it, it's a lot more multidimensional than that. But yes, payments that are broken where we live impact people's lives in a very real way. It's not an inconvenience to us. It's life or death to us. And that's the difference.
Yeah, that's such a stark reminder, especially as an American, born and raised in the States. I've been so blessed to, for me, Bitcoin was more so about the preservation of wealth. And, you hear stories like this, and it's just such a great reminder of how blessed we are in this part of the world, but also such a great reminder of the other aspects of Bitcoin and all of that. So this informal economy, they're very accustomed to trusting the community and kind of building their own circular economy within their community without any government intervention. Does that mean, have they been more open to Bitcoin and using Bitcoin payments because of that?
Yeah, look, I'm not a circular economy specialist per se, but I obviously know of it. I'm exposed to it, and I can see how circular economies emerge in Africa and continually emerge. I'll say a couple of things about it. The first observation is you don't find a Solana or Ethereum circular economy.
Yeah.
Why? You got to ask yourself that, right? Why? That's rhetorical. But the other thing about circular economies, there's quite things like Bitcoin Ikasi. We've seen things in Kenya and Ghana, and they keep sprouting in Zimbabwe. You keep seeing this. What's so fascinating about these circular economies is actually going in and observing how they interoperate. And some, I've spoken to like Herman, he's part of Bitcoin Ikasi. And I asked him, what are your observations relative to the circular economy that you kind of in and around? And he said a few things. He said, firstly is waste. The first thing that you notice in a community like that, the waste starts reducing. Because when people have perfect money and they have to impart sats, they won't just easily spend. So what happens is your spending behavior changes. So you become more qualitative. It's not just your time preference changes, but you become more qualitative. So you want things that last. You want things of quality. So you're not going to go to Temu and Shein and buy little plastic trinkets and rubbish that leads to this massive rubbish dump all around.
Yeah.
That's the first. The second thing is gangsterism, crime starts dissipating because people have hope. Because their time and energy is stored in something that cannot be taken away from them, cannot be debased, cannot be. I mean, that value proposition is so significant for them, and that changes people's behavior, the way they walk, the way they talk, the way they dress. I mean, Herman told me about individuals inside of Bitcoin Ikasi that would never have had the courage to stand on a Bitcoin stage in Cape Town and speak through a mic to an audience about their Bitcoin experience. See, when people have broken money, they act in a broken way. They spend on things that are meaningless and waste and merchant behavior changes. When people have sats, merchant behavior changes. Merchants have to start delivering on services in a very qualitative manner. So what happens up, you see kind of this rising tide of quality and dignity and hope. And people have hope. And that's extraordinary to see that societal impact that it has. Then you take something like the surfer kids, right? So we've got these black kids that are learning to surf. And I learned a little bit of them from Herman and the Bitcoin Ikasi. I'm very excited because I'm watching that very carefully at the moment. I think we're going to see our first black professional surfer coming from that community in the world. You know why? Because when they save, they don't save in South African rands. They save in Bitcoin. And when they save in Bitcoin, every year when they go to the competitions, they can actually afford the ticket because the money is not debased.
Yeah.
So they can compete against the Australian kid with the Aussie dollar. They can compete against the USA kid with the US dollar. So they actually have something that enables them to compete. And also the cool thing about Satoshis when they have it is the guy doesn't have to go clean gardens, wash cars, and all of that. He can sit in his surfboard all day and he can surf because that's what he's good at. That's what he loves. That's his passion. And like that's the coaching that's happening over there with the surfer kids. And that's just, to me, such a testament of pristine collateral, perfect money. When it changes the society, it changes the outlook, it changes the attitude, it changes the character. And that's the broad hope. And I think if you take a look at where we grew up, like Warren and myself, Warren Wheaty, the CEO of Africa Bitcoin Corporation, and myself, I grew up in arguably one of the most dangerous places in South Africa, Eldorado Park. But when you walk around there, it's not because those people are bad or because they're not capable. It's because their money's broken. When your money's broken, you don't have hope.
Yeah.
When your time and energy is not within your control, you act different. And you're prone to stealing cars. You're prone to dressing in a particular way. You're prone to listening to things in a particular way. So broken money has really broken Africa. And I'm very excited because I think where we live, there's like a time before 2008 and a time after 2008. You know, before 2008, there was no hope. After 2008, there is finally hope. We have hope. And that's extraordinary because where I live in the African continent, you know, we have the average age is 19 across the entire continent. The average age is 19. You know, there's 1.5 billion people, average age 19. By about 2030, we'll be close to 2 billion, fastest growing population in the world. You know, the unlock from an AI and a perfect money perspective is such a beautiful thing to observe because suddenly we've got two things. We got perfect money that gives us all our control and our hope back. And on the other hand, we've got artificial cognition. And we have the capability to take soil, look at it, take a camera, take a picture, and then give it to thousands of PhDs that can tell us in seconds how to fertilize the soil or what to do with that soil. We can point it at our livestock and it tells us what to do with our livestock and the disease. I mean, AI is a massive latent human potential unlock for Africa. And with all our resources and all the things that we have, that's the beauty. And I think that's the underlying current for Africa Bitcoin Corporation is young people filled with ideas, right? They want to do things. They want to build companies. They want to do stuff. And they don't want to leave. So Machankura is an application. And the founder, I spoke to the founder and I asked him, what did you observe when people, so it's an SMS-based Bitcoin platform. So you can buy and sell and settle Bitcoin across SMS. He built this.
Wow.
And it's been quite popular in areas where there's no internet connectivity, but there's GSM. So you can send SMS. So you can pay in sats over SMS, which is quite extraordinary. So I asked him about this. I said, hey, when Machankura is adopted, what's like one of the first things that you notice? Like, and he told me this, and I said, but what's that key material thing that you notice? You know what he said to me? They've noticed that most of the young people in the communities where Machankura is adopted are less interested in immigrating away. They're less interested in leaving. They'll stay. And what they start focusing on, because they've got perfect money now, and money that can't be debased, and you know all those good things about Bitcoin, they start focusing on their cultural heritage. They start looking deeper into where they come from, and they start adding more value in the community relative to that. That was his observation. So you see, immigration across the Mediterranean is because of broken money.
Yeah,
that's what's causing it over here. We've got more resources than anywhere else in the world. We're the most fertile continent. We've got rare earths. We've got the people. We've got young people. Our human capital is extraordinary. And I think those two things, you know, AI plus Bitcoin together, is the substrate for Africa Bitcoin Corporation. We're very excited about investing in that substrate because that substrate is building incredible businesses that will probably scale globally. And we want to kind of till that soil. We want to invest in that. And that's very exciting for us.
Yeah, that's incredibly exciting. That sounds amazing. And yeah, I mean, it's so funny you say that. It's like the main reason why a lot of people migrate to other countries has to be because of broken money. If it's crime, crime derives from broken money. If it's hyperinflation, you know, I think about my heritage, and my background's Brazilian, and it's like, think about Brazil. It's also such a fertile country. There's lots of resources, but a lot of Brazilians, if you gave them the opportunity to come to the States, they'll say yes in a heartbeat. So I think Jody's about to join us. I see him backstage. Here we go.
I am.
Hi, Jody.
I'm
Hey,
very
Jody.
sorry for being late, Stafford. It's really
all good.
pleasure to see you.
Yeah,
Bitcoin
awesome.
Prague it's going really well, but a lot of Bitcoiners trying to move at the same time, and afternoon traffic is not efficient.
No, awesome. Good to
We've
see you.
We've had great conversations so far.
I've listened to the whole thing.
Awesome.
AI is a brain drain. It's like almost stopping the brain drain in Africa. I think that's fascinating. I haven't really heard that before.
It's an enabler. It's an enabler. Yeah.
Super interesting, because you're able to allow people to build on ideas. And we do with the Daily Stack, we have like our Wednesday shows about AI, because so many Bitcoiners are like, you still need to go produce value in the world. You can't just like hold an asset. We need to have a good lens, and obviously you have a good lens, you know, from how you're raising your children. But I think the same thing with Bitcoiners is like, want to talk to them about like, look, don't go chase every stock that explodes tomorrow, but use AI to bring value to the world, you know, with Bitcoin as your underlying like store of value, right?
So you know what we say, Jody? We say, and I've said it a couple of times on the stage, like, I don't think Bitcoin was made for you guys.
Yeah.
I think Bitcoin
you said that in Bristol.
Yeah,
it's made for us. And the reason it's made for us is because we see it different to you. You guys are like real nervous about spending it. You know, you talk about it as in the future, it will be a medium of exchange or a unit of account. Where we come from, it's a medium of exchange and it's a unit of account. In South Africa, you can pay with Bitcoin across hundreds of thousands of merchants. Money Badger has enabled that over here. We probably have the highest merchant Bitcoin acceptance in the world, not in ratio, in the world. I know Square's done it in the United States, but if you look at merchant use of Bitcoin settlement, I would argue that we're bigger than them in terms of total volumes. We've got more people that have adopted this thing than anywhere else in the world, right? If you take a look at in ratio population. And the reason is we see it as money. We see it as this thing. It's a unit of account. There's circular economies in Africa where you can give a kid pounds, you'll throw it on the ground. You give a kid $1, he'll ask you, can you rather give me sats? Right? They don't want fiat. They understand the inefficiencies and the inabilities of fiat. And that's why I say for us, even when we built the Bitcoin treasury business, when we looked at the asset, we looked at it differently. We had to look at it in a more humanistic way. You see, Africa forces you to think in a different way. I always say, I told a journalist many years ago, she said, do you think the next Twitter will come from Africa, or the next Facebook will come from here, or the next Yahoo? I was like, no. The next Twitter of water purification will. The next Facebook of agriculture will. The next Yahoo of financial services will. We don't build things for fun. We build things here that when they scale, they've had human impact. That's the only way they scale. You've got to build technology and you've got to innovate here in a way that has true humanistic, life-changing impacts. If you don't, there's no scale. No one's going to build a platform here where people click the like button, because Africans have other things to do, right? They got other challenges. So you got to build real stuff. You're going to build an X-ray machine that's more modular, that you can take. The drone project that got launched here in South Africa, the famous one, right? That was transporting blood samples across jungles. We don't use drones for fun. We use drones for human impact. And that's the type of innovation that you see in Africa. So when we approached, you know, as ABC, Warren and myself, when we looked at Bitcoin and I joined the company, he said, hey, I'd like you to be the chairman of the board. I've got this private credit business and I deploy capital into SMMEs. And in Africa, that is such an unaddressed market right now, the small and medium enterprises. Banks don't look at them. VCs don't look at them because we live in a very high yield environment. So you guys live in the exact opposite of where we live. You've got lots of capital, deep capital markets, but you got like no yield, right? You got very low yield. So when Michael Saylor builds his treasury business, he builds in this very capitalistic way. So what he's going after is generating yield. So he takes the Bitcoin and then he kind of builds the hoard, and he builds this capital stack that amplifies the volatility of Bitcoin going up and down the stack. You go at MSTR, highly amplified. Then he tunes the amplification completely out of it on STRC. And that the top of that stack is attacking the money markets. It's low yield pools he's going after as an apex predator, and that's all cascading into STRC. He could never launch that in Africa. Our government bonds give you 20 to 22% yield per year. Our government bonds. So
and that's what in your talk in Bristol, I thought was so fascinating. It's totally flipped and so different than every other treasury conversation Halston and I have had.
Yeah. So what we have is low capital pools, right? Yeah. But enormous yield. And when you see enormous yield, people say, why is the yield so high? Is it because the risk is so high? No, it's not that. It's because it's unknown. It's people just don't understand it. So they give it a very high yield. For us, that high yield forces us to look at what Michael's doing. And this is what we did 2 years ago when we went to the first strategy conference. We listened to Michael Saylor. We were in Orlando, Warren and myself. Yeah. And we walked away saying that will never work in Africa. But everything that he said resonated with us. You know, when Michael says, you don't ever want to own property in Africa, ever. That's like, we all going, yeah. When he says, you know, Bitcoin is to an African what insulin is to diabetic. We're like, yes, the guy gets us, right? Yeah. But the point is, you can't build that in Africa, what he's built, because he's taking Bitcoin, generating yield, you know, building this thermonuclear engine inside of this aeronautical structure, and he's giving you guys yield. In my world, I already have a lot of yield, so I don't need to generate yield. What I need to do is take Bitcoin, switch on the lightsaber, and walk into the fields and harvest yield. So I don't use Bitcoin to generate yield. We use Bitcoin to harvest yield. So how do we do that? Very simply put, we have SMME loans that we give out at 18 to low 20% per annum. 18 to 20% per annum interest rate on a loan in South Africa is probably the most competitive that you can find, right? If you go to any other facility in South Africa, you're probably going to get it at probably 28 to 30%. And in some cases, up to 40 to 50%. If you go to Zimbabwe and you do a loan in Zimbabwe as a small and medium enterprise, you know what your interest rate is? 20% per month.
Yeah, that's wild.
Wow.
It's wild, right? Yeah. You go to Ghana, it's similar. You go to Botswana, Kenya, you go up, you know, Nigeria. This is the yields that you find. So what we're doing is we looked at Bitcoin and wait a minute. We can take Bitcoin and we can use it as collateral. Like, it's the first time ever that an African has a piece of collateral that's recognized on a global basis that someone will actually lend you fiat against. If I have a Cape Town property or a Johannesburg mansion and I fly to Switzerland, I go, hey guys, here's my title deed. I'd like to do an LTV of 40, 50% on this. Somebody puts off, right? Because like, they don't know that. They don't care about it. If I take any property, there's nothing in Africa physically that I could take anywhere in the world and present it as a structure, as collateral. Bitcoin's come along, and Bitcoin's weird. When we looked at it, we were like, whoa. So this piece of collateral, I can take anywhere in the world, and I can lend against it conservatively and extract fiat out of it, sub 5%. Like, we've never had that.
Yeah.
If you have the capability to do that, you can take the sub 5% fiat, and then you can deploy it into a loan environment with high yields of 18%. You see the margin yawn immediately in that world, and the opportunity to generally bring down yields. And that's why Saifuddin Musa, he joined our team. He's part of our team as part of ABC. We did an interview with a journalist today, and you know, this is what interested him in ABC, was the fact that we could take Bitcoin, we could lend against the Bitcoin at low yields, low interest rates, and we could deploy it into a high yielding environment, essentially bringing down the cost of capital. Because when we lend from pension funds, which we lend from, to build up our fund, which we deploy into small and medium enterprises, the reason it's 18% is because my weighted average cost of capital is 12%. That those guys want a return of 12% on that capital. So I have to deploy it out at 18%. So that's my margin that I'm making associated with that. But if I turn to Bitcoin, and I build a Bitcoin stack and I lend against that stack sub 5% and I turn over here, I mean, it becomes a lightsaber. It becomes an extraordinary thing, and you can start farming yields on a continental wide basis. And that's what we're doing. So we're very different in that way. You know, and also what makes us different, we're not a country play. We are continental play. So like Strategy is USA, Smarter Web is UK, you know, Metaplan's Japan. You know, ABC is not South Africa, it's Africa. So, and this play, because, you know, the JSE has the best liquidity. It's the biggest exchange on the African continent. And once you're on there, you can start listing in other jurisdictions across Africa, which it makes it a little bit easier. We also have the local domain knowledge, and that's what we've done. So we are JSE listed, publicly traded African company that holds Bitcoin on our balance sheet, first ever. And what we're proud of, we have Bitcoin in our name. There's not a lot of companies that trade with Bitcoin in their name. So we were on the alternate exchange for a while. In the last couple of weeks, we've actually moved up to the main bourse of the JSE. So we're the first main bourse traded entity on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange that has Bitcoin in its name. And I think that's a really cool thing. And that's the first time in Africa that that's happened. And our strategy is very clear. We're going to utilize Bitcoin as collateral to harvest yield across Africa. And we want to increase our margin as a business. We want to earn more, but ultimately we'd like to pull down those interest rates overall and make it cheaper to lend and unlock that. The unlock, according to stats, in the SME lending unlock in Africa is around $500 billion. It's sitting at about 300 to 500 billion US dollars, that opportunity. So, I mean, it's a massive opportunity for us to go and enter the market with that. And for us also, we keep hearing about private credit. We always hear like, you know, Michael Saylor talks badly about private credit. You know, we listen to the True North's podcast and we hear the guys talking about private credit. We're like, whoa. Private credit is a beautiful thing in Africa. Without private credit, like the African continent would collapse, right? I would argue without private credit, the United States wouldn't be where it is today. So as much as we frown on private credit because of what you guys have done with it, you've taken it and you made it opaque. So you kind of took the loan books and then you traded them. You did like what you did in 2008 you did with private credit.
The nefarious activity.
Yeah, but it's not what's happening with private credit. So you got to look into that and say, hey, private credit has a meaningful impact on lives in the United States. Go look at the history. Look at what happened in 2008. Private credit had to fill the void because all the banks got shut down and there was a lot of consolidation. Private credit filled that void. And I would argue private credit, I think it's, some estimates say it's between 55 and 60 million jobs in the United States. So as opaque as it is, and we may speak about it badly, it's got real impact in the US. For us, it's fundamental in Africa. And we don't do the irresponsible, crazy things that you guys do with private credit over there. Right? So we take the capital and we deploy it in a very responsible, transparent way. And if you take a look at our loan book is, what's extraordinary is we've been doing this for 3 years as a publicly traded entity. When we go to the United States and we go to the UK, by the way, we're about to list an Aquis in the UK, and that's why I was there.
Oh, yeah.
And we tell people that our loan book is this size, 3 years, etc. And they ask us, what's your default rate on your loans? And we say less than 1%. They're like, what? What do you mean it's less than 1%? Why is it? And they start digging in because they don't understand it. What they don't understand is that, you know, the deal flow in Africa is so big. Our book is 5 times oversubscribed. I mean, the need for capital that's affordable so people can build businesses and change lives is significant over here. And these people have cattle. They got equipment on their farms. They got land. They got houses. They got all the collateral needed to securitize their loans. They just never had anyone willing to engage them. So that's what we're doing. And Bitcoin accelerates that play. Bitcoin makes that possible in a very unique way in Africa. So for us, we're not interested in a Bitcoin leaderboard. We're like, why are you looking at the Bitcoin leaderboard, right? For us, we're looking at how many jobs does one Bitcoin generate in Africa? So we have this like broad back of a napkin math that says 1 Bitcoin equals like 5 to 8 African jobs. So for every Bitcoin we raise, we impact real lives. The metric that drives us are jobs, lives, businesses. That's what we're driven by. We're not driven by having 1,000, 2,000 Bitcoin on our stack and then waiting for the number to go up. And then hopefully we'll build up enough Bitcoin so we can have some preferred on the very top of the capital stack that allows us to attack some low income yield markets. That's not what that's like, it's interesting. It's fascinating. We applaud the guys doing that, but we're not driven by that because we can't be. Again, the next Twitter of water purification needs to come from here. And how do we do that? We got to give that 19-year-old, which is our average age in the continent, we got to give that person capital that's affordable so they can build those businesses. And that's what drives us.
Yeah, I think it's an incredible mission. It's so totally different than, you know, a lot of the businesses and the models that we look at. Quick story is I studied abroad in Tanzania, and
oh wow,
you growing up, you think debt is bad, and you think lending, you know, or borrowing a lot of money and being debt is bad. But it's super interesting as like a real estate major, seeing people in Tanzania stack cinder blocks outside of, you know, their house and outside of, you know, plots of land. And we asked our teacher, who is from Moshi, Tanzania, and she's like, look, like there's no mortgage market here. There's no lending market. So you can't borrow the money to build a house fully. You have to slowly do it over time. And the big problem with that is that you really do need to lend. Like the structure is better to lend somebody all the money they need to build the whole house and put a roof over it. They live in it, and then they pay you back over time while they're productive with their lives, not to like be out in the rain, stacking cinder blocks until they can build a roof. And that switched the light bulb in my head of like, you know, not all financialization is bad if done the right way. And what you guys are doing is very similar, not getting in the mortgage market, but you're taking what the US has in the mortgage market. And the reason that everyone in, not everyone in America, but so many more people in America can have a house is because Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were backstopping, you know, all of these lenders. And if it was purely done off of, you know, a very tight credit worthiness, there would be very few homes. And so
there'd be very few homes.
And for you guys, just providing that ability to borrow against it is, I think, super interesting for people. And people should really think about, like, in a hyper Bitcoinized world, you guys are just acting like any VC or investment firm. Like you're putting capital to work to build things because people need capital upfront to generate value from it.
Spot on. And you know what the opportunity for us is? When we drop the cost of capital for that SME and we make the loan affordable, at the same time, we explain to them what Bitcoin is. And in the future, what we want to start offering, when the time is right, we want to do bit bonds. So we want to hybridize the loan. So we'll say, hey, 80 to 90% is fiat. And if you're willing to take, 10% of that and save it in Bitcoin, and we hold the Bitcoin, we'll drop some basis points on the interest rate. It's because you've kind of further securitized the loan. And when they start seeing that saving in Bitcoin from a business perspective makes sense for them over time, that's the orange pilling that we want to do on the ground. It's going to get them comfortable with that. We want to start taking the same model where we take Bitcoin and we lend against it at very low LTVs, and then we take the fiat and we pump it out into high yields. We think that same, in principle, model could work for insurance. So we're investigating the insurance market in South Africa. And we're like, wait a minute, the average cost of capital of insurance is like really high. That's why most people are not insured. So now you take Bitcoin and you take the thermonuclear weapon and you shove it into that engine and you switch it on. Suddenly no one can keep up with you. And everyone misunderstands you because like, why are you going so fast? And it's just, so look, for us, that's what we've done. So Sailor has the image of the space rocket and he's got the Bitcoin battery and he's got all that. That's exactly what we've done. Ours is just it's a private credit vehicle. And in the core of it sits kind of this Bitcoin engine that we want to build out. And we need to do that responsibly. So people say, why don't you have more Bitcoin on your balance sheet? Why have you it takes a while to build the substrate up, right? So if you're a publicly traded company, first of all, you need to get regulators real comfortable that you got Bitcoin in your name. Like, what the hell are you doing? You got Bitcoin in your name? Yeah. So that takes a lot of training. That takes a lot of skills upliftment. So you're going to the regulators and this just shows the relationship we have with our regulators. Number two is you're going to make sure your board is comfortable. I was chairman of the board. I stepped down from the board just a couple of months ago, and I'm now executive director on the board versus chairman. But we had to kind of transform our board. Our board went through a complete metamorphosis into a board that was capable of understanding this asset class and being able to apply their minds from a risk and a governance perspective. So we had to kind of really look at our boards. Our boards changed quite a bit. We had to look at our governance processes and making sure that we got the right policies in place. And every policy we wrote, you got to go back to the regulator and say, hey, here's the policy for that. Then we had to take a look at our custodial ceremonies and how do we do custody, and when we do Bitcoin buys, what's that process? So what people don't understand about a traded Bitcoin treasury company is the complexity of the underlying operations, people, and technology that you got to put under the substrate to make it work. So to actually buy Bitcoin, display it on your balance sheet, issue out equity in an accretive way, and do all those things. We speak about it like that, but from a publicly traded company perspective, it's a very complex task. And what we've done since we've made this announcement, changed our name, did all the things that we did, moved to the main bourse, went to OTCQB in the United States. We're now trading over there. We went to Frankfurt. We're trading in Europe. And now we're listing on Aquis. And in South Africa, we listed on the JSE. Obviously, we went to Namibia. We listed on the Namibia exchange. We're going to list in the Botswana exchange, the Zimbabwe exchange, Kenya exchange, Ghana exchange. So we're going to open up all the liquidity and all the rails globally and Pan-African and connect that. To do that it's very arcane. It's not difficult. And you're whacking through the bush, and I'm the African saying this. Like you're whacking a new path through the bush that no one has ever done before. So we slow, but we deliberate. We're not driven by hordes of Bitcoin. We're driven by having the necessary vehicle that we know when we're ready can really launch off this rocket pad, this launch pad, take the rocket and truly scale, because it's significant, the opportunity. So we're going to be real patient. I think in the next few years, I think what we will see is Saylor will get up and talk about 800,000 Bitcoins, maybe 1 million Bitcoins. I want to talk about 1 million lives. That's what I'm doing. If I can say, here's 1 million lives tangibly that we've impacted in this real tangible way, I feel that I've used Bitcoin more effectively, and I've taken Bitcoin to its core again. So that's why I said on stage in Bristol, like, this thing's made for us, because what we value of it is kind of the human application to it, not the financialization of it, which we do appreciate. And we think it's incredible and it's necessary in those markets because it does serve a purpose. If you're a retiree in America, someone that wants to extract some yield out of your capital, that makes a lot of sense. In Africa, we're just driven by different values. We're driven by different needs and convictions. But I do think what you'll see emanating from our domain is the real stories. I think that's what I think it was made for us. That's why I keep saying this thing was made for us. Yeah.
Definitely puts things into perspective for Jody and I in the States. Take a lot of our everyday, what we see as just trivial things, for granted. That's incredible.
So when like I said earlier, when Saifuddin, it was quite nice to listen to Saifuddin earlier today when he spoke to the journalist with me and Warren, with the three of us were on a video call. And the journalist asked and said, why did you join Africa Bitcoin Corporation? There's so many of these other treasury companies. He's the guy that wrote the Bitcoin book, right? The Bitcoin Standard, Fiat Standard, etc. You know, what's incredible is what he wrote in the Fiat Standard and the Bitcoin Standard specifically. I feel Africa Bitcoin Corporation and Africa itself, with all our circular economies, we are actually personifying a lot of his philosophies that he articulated in that literature. This is kind of actually where it's happening. And this is what he was articulating, that his book is coming to life. You can actually see how Bitcoin kind of brings fiat to its knees and then has this incredible human impact simultaneously. And that's kind of what the asset was built for. That's its true promise that lays dormant inside of it. And we kind of unlocking that, which is incredible.
Yeah. What's been your biggest focus, I think, on really getting people comfortable with the yield, with the investments? Is that, I'd say, that your biggest hurdle of speaking with people in different markets, outside of your market, is you're investing in a company that's making, these private investments in this market, which in Namibia or Botswana, they're just not as familiar with.
Well, I think it's easier for us on the ground in Africa because we kind of are a lighthouse in Africa. And it's we say that humbly, not arrogantly in any way. But if you take a look at the telecommunications market, the mining, the banking sector, most of those head offices are in South Africa, and they've got branches going up into the rest of Africa. So we do have our African counterparts that kind of listen to what we're doing. They trust the JSE. It's a big barometer it's a big metric that that shows you're credible. Because we're on the main bourse of JSE, we get in international markets, we get accelerated listing. So on Aquis, our listing is an accelerated listing because there's integration with the JSE. The JSE is one of the top 20 biggest stock exchanges in the world. It's got a lot of liquidity. It's really big. So, the integration is really key for us. I think coming back to the question, like what's our biggest hurdle? Our biggest hurdle is probably articulating the strategy to investors in the G8, right? So when we go to Europe or when we go to the UK or specifically the United States, like Africa feels very opaque and far away. Africa feels risky. Africa feels, so we need to constantly chip at that. And that's why we're so adamant that our loan book has to be pristine, right? We've got to show discipline. We got to show that we can deploy capital, which we've done. 3 years, default rate sub 1%. That is extraordinary. And we have to show that this is not risk. The high yields in Africa doesn't mean your money is going to disappear. High yields in Africa simply means it's unaddressed and it's unknown. But there's actually amazing businesses in Africa. So when we go into Africa, you spoke about the Tanzanian thing where the person's cinder block building. That's an extreme example. But if you take a look at our examples in our informal economy, there's cash businesses that are so cash flush. We got people sometimes coming to us for a loan. And we had this instance where someone said, hey, I want a loan. I need a loan. And we said, so, show us your bank account. Okay, show us your, she's got houses. She's got assets. Then she says, look at that house over there. And we go, yeah, and it's a double-story house. And she says, if you open up that door, no one lives in there. That house is filled with money.
Just stacks of the bills.
It's just filled with money. You walk in the houses, every room is filled with money. So, it's not a risky business. That's the one thing. It's got collateral. It's got money. That person, that female that owns that business, it was her dad's business, her granddad's business, a great-granddad's business, a great-great-great-dad's business. So when you look at it from a lending perspective, you've got community integration, you've got genealogy going back multiple generations, you've got assets, it's a trading book, you can see people coming in and out of it. So when we look at it in that way. A bank will never do this. A bank will never, our analysts, now, the way we scale, the people say, but how do you scale a book like that? Two reasons we can scale it. AI really helps us in terms of deliberation, checking, vetting. So an analyst augmented with AI is an incredible analyst. It's 10 analysts all of a sudden. Number two is cost of capital for human resources in Africa is really cheap. So, a ZAR, South African Rand-based individual is a lot cheaper to us. So what we're actually looking at right now is the possibility of taking our private credit vehicle and deploying it in the UK and in the United States. We think the way we do private credit here, if we took it to the United States, we could start lending to small and medium enterprises in the United States and have the operations in South Africa executing against that. And we could unlock potential in the formal economy. So we're starting to look at that and say, wait a minute, our model works in this so complex environment with high so-called risk. And if we can vet that risk and we can do it properly, well, it's going to be a lot easier when we go to the United States to vet it, right? If we go to the UK or let's go to Europe, it's on. And I would argue that SMME funding is a gaping hole still today in the G8, right? And I think that's an opportunity. So yes, there's a Pan-African focus, and we're going to build this out Pan-African, but we're also turning to some of the countries going, wait a minute, we can deploy this in the United States, and we can operationalize it from Africa. So yeah, that's the biggest challenge, is getting people to understand the market, getting people to understand it's not dangerous, therefore the yield is high. The yield is just high because it's unaddressed, and we're unlocking that yield for you. As simple as that. And that's education, and we're patient, and we'll just keep doing it, over and over until the message breaks, which we're excited about.
Yeah.
I love that.
So I think we one of the few, if not the only, Bitcoin treasury company in the world with a truly accretive core business that runs the engine, right? I think we're one of the few, like where Bitcoin comes in, kind of drops the cost of capital, gets deployed, and then the yield cascades back into the treasury. I think that's quite unique. I don't see a lot of businesses with a core that operates like that today.
Yeah, and I think getting capital into this places where exactly like you're saying, untapped resource with AI coming in, and suddenly you have so much power of knowledge of education that's suddenly injected into everything that people are doing. Like you can go look up and learn how to code very quickly, or learn what you need to do to produce what you would code if you knew how to code so quickly that like the access is there. Obviously there's cost to these models, but models are also getting cheaper. Google this week is, you used to work at Google as a Zoogler. They are almost race to the bottom in the sense of commoditizing some of their cheaper models like Gemini Flash 3.1 and some of the new ones, and as well as open source models. So what's amazing is you don't have to have the newest iPhone, which is like Claude Fable that was just released. You could just have a really quality local model that you're just running on your own power. And I think that's incredibly powerful. And I think it's going to be the next 2 to 3 years, people are going to have a lot that they can, build off of. So I think that's fascinating from this conversation. I think it's inspiring to think about like, oh, what is going to happen when suddenly you're able to put money in the hands of somebody that's super creative because they're forced to be creative.
And you know what they can go off and do? They can go build a small language model, right? On Kimi.
Yeah,
running on one instance of Hopper or Blackwell sitting somewhere inside of a telco, and suddenly they've built up this hyper personalized intelligence relative to that function. And that's what I think we've underestimated what's coming. These weights will have such localized knowledge inside of them, and I think that the economic unlock, and with that, some of the young people approaching us right now for funding up building businesses like that, that have these like real African diaspora capabilities inside of them. And I think that is something that's applicable on a global basis, but it's built in Africa on a small language model. So I think you're going to see more of that coming along. I think also, this is another business that Warren and I are involved in. We are seeing Bitcoin mining having a significant impact in South Africa and some of the grids around grid stabilization. And once you got the grid stabilization done, what's very interesting is how inference compute can sit behind that. I think very few people understand the relationship between an ASIC and a traditional GPU that's doing AI inference compute. So like AI inference compute is very difficult to deploy on our grids in South Africa, in Africa, because AI inference, people say the grid's running out of power in the United States or AI is running out of power. That's not true. What's more true is that AI inference compute, the way it executes, it fluctuates its power consumption dramatically, erratically, and violently. So the problem that we have in the world right now is we don't have grid connection points at scale where AI inference compute can connect and not burn up transformers or battery cells or break the frequency on the grid. So what we see happening in South Africa is people looking at deploying ASIC buffers. So Bitcoin miners that have the capability to absorb enormous amounts of power and instantaneously be switched on and off. That real-time demand response layer creates the opportunity for AI inference compute to sit behind it and have a very stable electron signature on the grid. So Bitcoin is having a play in Africa with AI on a digital infrastructure basis. And I think that's one of the most underreported things. And I think you're going to see some noise from that coming out of Africa soon. And maybe that's another podcast we can
we'll back to that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, Stafford, it's been a pleasure. I know I missed the first part, but listening in, and I love the conversation between Halston and yourself. As we wrap up on time, what can you leave us with? How should people follow you? What should they be looking out for from ABC?
I think you can find us, Africa Bitcoin Corporation. That's the handle on X, africabitcoincorporation.com. You can get the website, take a look at that. We're a publicly traded company, so all our financials, everything about us is out in the open. So everything that I said on this podcast is clear. You can go take a look at it. We're very humble in our approach. We are a young company. We're approaching Bitcoin in an African native way. And that to us is unleashing latent human potential on our continent. We think that's going to have significant impacts on a global basis. And we're excited to be, part of that story of Bitcoin. And I think I want to shout out to all the folks out there that, we seem to have lost our way in Bitcoin land. I feel sometimes like we talk about number go up, number go down, and we We just kind of, what's the ETFs and, you know, what's going on? The AI trade is sucking the oxygen out of the room, and that's why Bitcoin is down. You know, we don't, in Africa, we don't care about the Bitcoin price. You know, we don't, because what makes this asset valuable to us is its immutability, its decentralized aspects of it, its security, its the ability, the sovereignty that it promises us. So when you guys look at coin go up, coin go down, we shake our heads and we go like, but this is not Bitcoin.
Yeah.
This is not what Bitcoin's all about. And I think if that message can just kind of resonate with all of you, and maybe there's an African waving the flag down here in the middle of nowhere saying, from the jungle or the bush in Africa saying, you know, Bitcoin, Satoshi didn't build this thing so we can just financially instrumentize it.
Yeah.
This thing is a beautiful asset. It's pristine money. It's perfect money. We've never had that in the history of humanity. And what we're going to do with it down in Africa is probably what you guys are waiting to see happen. What happened with mobile happened here first. We went from nothing to mobile. And we built some of the most innovative banking infrastructure in the world. I mean, a lot of people in the world came to South Africa and Africa to see how banks from a mobile perspective could operate. I think that's going to happen with Bitcoin, and I think it's happening with Bitcoin today. And yeah, we just got to keep showing that humanistic aspect of it, displaying that. And I think what's a big challenge for us is making sure that our regulators down in our markets understand this asset. The biggest challenge to Bitcoin is probably governments.
Yeah.
You know, that's what's the biggest challenge. But at the end of the day, it's an asset that is government proof. You know, we can go underground. We can do what we need to do if we need to do it. I mean, it's an incredible asset. But we want to make sure that our government understands what it is, engaging with our regulators in a very patient and responsible way. And we say this often, but like we really still so early. Like it's still so early. I mean, this thing is 16 years old, 17. It's young. It's a teenager. It's going to act irresponsible. People are going to do weird stuff with it. It's nowhere near its adulthood yet. And I think we just got to be patient. And I think, you know, for Bitcoin treasury companies out there, I said this in Bristol, if your Bitcoin's sitting on your balance sheet doing nothing and you're worried about it, call us. We'd love to take your Bitcoin and we can put it to work and we can generate high yields from it. We can really, and we're not just the economic value proposition, but, you know, there's this human impact story where we can show you what your Bitcoin's doing on a human impact basis. So we're starting to have those conversations with other Bitcoin treasury companies to say, hey guys, you know, you're stuck because you've got this core business has got nothing to do with the treasury and you're sitting with 1,800 Bitcoins. What do you do now? Well, yeah, you know, this is what you should have done in the first place, and we're doing it down here, and we love to work with you. So yeah, parting messages, we love it. It's not going to go away. It saves our lives in Africa. And I said it earlier, there was a time before 2008, and there's a time after 2008.
Yeah.
Before 2008, there was no hope. That was the time before Bitcoin. And after Bitcoin, it wasn't financial anything, it was hope. The ability to store your time and energy as an African, finally, in something that no man can influence, no man can make more of, no man can take away. We've never had that in the history of our existence on this African continent, you know, and that's a beautiful thing for us, beautiful thing, and that saves our lives. And that's what it's all about for us.
Love it.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I think giving a lot of meaning behind all of this to really show, you know, just like you said, it's meant for you guys, not meant for us.
No, I didn't say that loud. I didn't say it's not meant for you. I said it's meant for us. We're gonna do something. Let's show you what you can do with it. Maybe there's something to learn from this. So,
but not enough people see like the tangible benefits in the same way. They haven't felt the pressure of being debanged.
Buy stuff with your Bitcoin. Don't just save it and sit on it, hoping it's gonna go up. Buy something with it. You know, use it as a unit of account. Think about your world as one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. One Bitcoin is not $62,000. One Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. Like one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. That's what we see it. And you guys are like up and down. I'm like, no, it didn't. One Bitcoin still one Bitcoin. You know, the sats are still sats.
Yeah. My friend Kyle Huber, I'll give him a shout out. He at my first Bitcoin conference, the Unconference yesterday here in Prague, he showed a documentary he just released in Kenya, so covering a circular economy in Kenya, and it was exciting to see, like, in the communities that they would go into, how much it's just like an actual hope in a system that looks way different than trusting a far off American system and the American dollar, who is just, more men that are fallible and, just fall short, all men sin and fall short of the glory of God. And I think that's the issue, is like finally finding a money system. So I don't think it's out yet, but I'll link that in the comments. And then as well, we're going to have Africa Bitcoin Corporation on 21rates.com, have a profile. We're also going to have this video on there. But Stafford, it's been an absolute pleasure. Give him a follow, and we'll be following you as well. We're excited to bring back the HPC and the miner piece as well, because that's I think a very fascinating piece. Give a data center
when we're ready.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for your time, by the way. It was lovely meeting you. I've watched you. I've watched you come up, and I'm a proud dad. And when I saw you, I just think you're doing great.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do.
We pop 'em like over red and vodka.
To the hip hop, the hip it to the hip hop, you don't stop the rocker to the bang bang boogie. Say up jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie to beat. Now what you hear is not a test. I'm rapping to the beat, and me, the groove, and my friends are gonna try to move your feet. You see, I am Wonder Mike.
Bring us on stage here and fix that real quick. Bring us on stage. There we go. Turn down the music.
What's going on, KT? How you doing?
Fresh, KT.
Hey, how's it going? Pretty good. Been good.
Turning the music down there. Now we can hear you. So you're back inside today. You've been outside the past few weeks.
Oh man, it's so freaking hot right now. Like, it's almost 110. Oh, if I would sit outside, I would burn.
Yeah, that's the downside. I always say I want to move to Florida, and then I did go to Florida one time in the summer, and I was like, "Holy shit, it's no joke." They got the humidity down there too, so
yep. I was in Cancun last week, and yeah, it's constant 85, but that humidity also kills you.
Yeah, awesome. Well, welcome back. We got some big news. We won't probably talk about it too much today, but coming off the week of SpaceX. I got the first Fed chair meeting, so a lot going on, and a short week today. This week, excuse me, with Juneteenth on Friday.
Yep.
I'm having my afternoon coffee because my daughter woke me up at 4:30 in the morning this morning. So struggling here towards the afternoon. But how are we looking in the markets? I was podcasting the last hour and a half, and so I didn't get a chance to look. But it's been up and down throughout the day when I was looking, at least on my options. It's been a crazy roller coaster.
Yeah. So let me see. Sharing works. Okay, let's go. 1 minute. I think it's just not letting me share my screen for some goddamn reason.
Hit that little plus button. Is that?
Yeah, I did that. But then it's saying Google Chrome would like to record this computer screen under access to the application. Huh. It's just not letting me do it.
Jody's usually our IT guy, so we can go live.
No. I think I'll be fine. I just have to probably just quit and reopen. So I'll be right back if you don't get you guys.
Yeah. No worries at all. So while we wait for Sniper to come back, we can
SpaceX. So are you touting your bags? How long are you taking any gains?
Bags right now. It's early. I said I won the first inning here versus you, but the news story on that though is the float. So people, myself included, didn't think about that, and 95% of the float has been taken or locked up. Now there is, I got to find this tweet that Jody just sent me, but it was showing basically the breakdown of dates. So it's not all at once. It's going to be like 5% the first cliff, then it's 25% the second cliff. Yeah. So one could imagine people that are sitting on millions of dollars out of nowhere are going to trim their positions.
And how in its size, right? Like $2.7 trillion company. And, you know, it hasn't been seasoned in the same way that NVIDIA has been public for a long time. Like they've been around in business, making revenue for a long time, a big shareholder base. Jensen doesn't own as big a chunk as Elon owns. So it does seem unprecedented how like that stock can behave, you know, where there is a low float.
Yeah, we were just talking about the IPO and how so much is locked up right now. It's only going up. However, the cliff. And me and Jody didn't really participate in a meaningful amount. I bought a few shares just so I could say I'm a SpaceX holder, but nothing significant where I care that much if it goes up or down. I just feel like it's going to be choppy and probably towards the downside as soon as people get off lockup. But they're being smart with their money right now.
I'm thinking it can go back all the way up to like 120, 115-ish, I guess. Like, I think it'll go a dip below the IPO price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that, what happened with Meta? Meta, they dropped right away, though, I think, more so.
They dropped right away. No, actually, the couple of days after, they just dropped like a rock. And after that, yeah.
Yeah, like Airbnb kind of did that too. The past like few big ones have. We haven't really had a run on IPOs though since then. I mean, we got this Anthropic, OpenAI coming out. So, and then
I think it's just overhyped now. Like I just think it's all overhyped right now. Like everybody wants to get into the next big thing that runs like 5x, 6x without understanding the model of the business. Like for example, I was looking at the revenues for SpaceX and I was like, what? Why is it even a $2 trillion company? But then future revenue, future growth, all of that makes sense. But there's so many companies out there that can project the same level of optimism like Elon Musk can do. But at the same time, he talks about, SpaceX potentially making $1 trillion in revenue by 2030 or greater by 2030. But then, how is that even possible? Where is all that money coming from? Who is going to spend all that money in the first place? Is it the American government that's going to spend all that money with all this huge debt that they're holding on? I don't know.
Yeah.
I agree.
I agree. Long term, it's going to be tough. They're going to have to execute pretty perfectly. They just bought Cursor today for $60 billion.
Mm-hmm.
We were just talking about that. So they're trying to grab more revenue too right now, like while they got it, And I wonder.
I agree. I mean, there's also Terrafab that's going to come in. Then there's robo taxis from Tesla, and then something else from Optimus and things like that. And then you have speculations around Tesla, SpaceX merger. There's like a lot of things that are going on, but then there's so much uncertainty for me right now to say, okay, go buy SpaceX stock.
Yeah. Before we get into all the other stocks though, too, I curious your thoughts on like the downstream effects. We saw the hyperscalers go first, then we saw memory, for this. And so I'm looking at those second, third layers.
Mm-hmm.
I started thinking too, it's space. Now space is like the exciting one. Like I was looking at I think it was Nabibium or something. I don't know how to pronounce it. But it's the oil that goes into all the things that do the launch, because they're gonna have to launch quite a bit to make their money back, right? And so I was looking at if there's any companies like downstream in that second, third layer that haven't been picked up yet on the space trend here we got.
Yeah, I mean, mostly it's going to boil down to connectivity. So how are they going to do it is the biggest question. And, edge compute is definitely going to be the biggest thing in the next 5 to 6 years at least. And forefront of it being Qualcomm, AVGO, Cisco, MRVL. When Jensen says MRVL is the next $1 trillion company, it also depends on how SpaceX and the rest of the space, the space data centers are going to operate in the next few years, right? Like, is that even possible, feasible in the near future is something that we have to talk about. I mean, I'm not like a technical guy who can like talk about that right now, but especially with all this AI hype that's going on, people really don't know where the trend is going. But obviously, market is very optimistic. One thing that I'm also seeing is they are they're very optimistic in the sense that AI is going to reduce costs, and that cost reduction is what is going to go into investments. Is the optimism that's going on in the market right now? So I don't know.
So the big news, obviously, Monday, U.S.-Iran peace deal. Was it today? This morning, I think Iran added a condition that Israel had to withdraw from Lebanon. Lebanon had thrown bombs over to Israel. Israel reacted. To me, I've seen this maybe because I'm Jewish. I've seen this like my whole life with Israel, and it's gonna. I don't know if until there's like a regime change in Iran, if Trump believes this himself. So like I kept saying like cautiously optimistic. I agree. Like no one wants this war. I think we were kind of brought into it, and no one really knew what was going on ever. It feels like Trump would tweet one way, then it'd be the next day, it'd be something else, and back and forth. So like. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm not going full force quite yet, just because there's been too much back and forth, and new conditions keep getting added and things like that. So I'm no way calling myself a global expert, right? But just watching from the peripheral, that's kind of my take.
Avo globalist. Yeah, look at you.
Definitely not a globalist. I watch the news. I try to get my news from Twitter because that's real. And they're basically tweeting out that the deal's done, right?
I think,
yeah.
In most aspects, the way I think about it is U.S. Plays the short-term game, right? Like they're only thinking about 4 years, 5 years terms. Mm-hmm. It's not like Iran, China, Russia, where they have like a 10-year, 20-year, 50-year plans. Obviously, you can talk about dictatorships, democracy, blah blah blah. But then, what democracy, especially what I see in India and again in America, is all these politicians are playing the short-term game, right? So when you're thinking about that in general, what is the immediate agenda for Trump right now? Is winning the midterms, right? Like he wants Republicans back in the seat so that he has a little bit more leverage in the Senate and the House, and things like that. So he would do whatever is in his power to get that thing going. And one of the biggest aspects to that is, and one of the biggest talking points for the last 1 year has been the federal interest rates. And the second one, obviously, after the Iran war, is the oil prices. So if you look at what he has been talking about in the last 1 week, just before the peace deal was signed and whatnot, he has been talking about stocks going all the way higher, much higher, and oil dropping off like a rock. He has been saying that quite consistently. He has been like, once the peace deal is signed, oil is going to plummet very, very fast. He has been like consistently pounding on that. So when I saw that, his MOUs that they are signing or whatever, the glorified versions of whatever they're talking about right now, it's all connected to the midterm elections. They want the two things to be the most talked about points, which is oil prices and the inflation because of these oil prices, and then the rate cuts to be cut down, right? So that the house market is much more affordable and things like that. So I think he's going to make sure the oil prices are going to fall off very fast. Right now, I was talking about it yesterday when it was at 123 on USO. Today it's at 113. I think he's going to make sure USA drops down to about 95, 98-ish pretty soon, which also the Feds that have been talking about for the last 1 or 2 weeks, they have been talking about how the recent inflation spike has been oil shock driven, meaning because of the Iran war, whatever is happening, that is what is driving the inflation right now, and it's not the economy that is actually running hot. That is essentially what they're trying to tell you. So so they have already prepared the groundwork for Warsh to come in today and tell them that, okay, let's see what the oil prices are going to go. If the oil prices are going to fall, the next meeting we are going to cut. And I do believe there is a very high chance that we will see, at least 2 rate cuts before the midterms happen. And that has to start from, the groundwork for that should start from at least in right now. Like I think the groundwork has already started in May. You see that there's a slow dip. Obviously, there's all those spikes that you're seeing in the chart right now that you're sharing are because of the bombing back up again, the Strait being closed, Iran overnight news, this and that. Yeah. Obviously, there's all that risk, but the president is telling you the oil prices are going to fall off very, very, very fast. His agenda is the midterms. That is essentially what it is. So
I think you nailed that. Yeah, that's exactly what I think is going on, right? And for the first time, you see, him talking negative about BB. He's like, they shouldn't be doing that, and it's very much
very evident
in terms and stocks in mind. Like, he can't afford that right now. Because this is a big midterm, which it feels like it's going to go flip back blue from everything that we've seen. DC is about to hire, or they just like, it looks like, I think it was 80% predicts, right, Jody? So I think I saw that on predicts. But
so a question before we move on from USO though is, when you're looking at positioning for the lowering of oil, I don't see you looking at buying long dated put options on USO now. Like, you the simple man thesis would be, oh, let's go look at the, an expiry in November or August, September, as we approach midterms and look there. Are premiums too rich there? Are you just looking for short-term moves and drops down to make sure you have confirmation, the deal's going through, we're not going to see anything else for the straight away moves? Or what's your thought process when you want to apply that thesis?
Well, when you look at longer term, obviously the premiums are quite rich because people do believe it's going to be immaterial. The war is going to be immaterial, right? Like, because alternative routes, alternative supply chains, all of that gets built up pretty fast. Look at what happened with Russia and Ukraine, right? The war is still going on. Nobody really talks about it because our attention span is very low. So that's the same mindset that we have with options trading too, right? Like, when you're looking at options trading, you want to be quick in capturing those gains and get the maximum move out of it in the short term. If it's really working out in your favor, you can definitely go and buy a leveraged ETF or something like that. But in the short term sense, I'm like looking at, okay, 1 month out. Like I said, like, the work for the midterms has to start now, and it's already late in my opinion, and they will start to accelerate that work pretty soon. So one of that work has to be with USO. The oil price is going down. So that's where my mindset is, where, okay, there'll be a quicker drop in the next 1 month and then a gradual drop after going to the midterms. Closer to the midterms, when people are ready to vote, that's where you'll see, oh, you know what, oil being at $4 is now at $3 a gallon, and we have brought the oil prices down. We have told you this, blah, blah, blah. The narrative just changes. Right now, the quick drop that you want to capture is the $4 to $3.80 or $3.70 a gallon, right? Like, that's essentially what I'm trying to capture. And then there can be a gradual, like, slow drop until like $3 a gallon. I'm just giving you hypothetical cases here.
Yeah, I think you nailed that right on the head in terms of what's going on. So we touched on USO. Reddit was one. We actually just touched on that a little bit with Joey right before this. But June 16th, 2026 Digital News Report reveals that Google's algorithm has aggressively pivoted to prioritize user-generated content and forum discussions over legacy media. They also have the Anthropic. So before they IPO, our theory is that they'll settle that case with Reddit. And then the last piece is, I think, with Google Gemini, and I believe it is with OpenAI, they have 2 deals that are up for renewal this summer as well. So there's quite a few catalysts to the upside. as well as the one thing I said is that Gemini probably has enough data. Like they may have some more negotiation power than OpenAI may. But I think those are pretty compelling catalyst, given where the price is at today. But what are the charts telling us? What's the truth show?
Yeah, Avi, if you can go to the daily chart instead of the 4-hour chart, I can.
It's Jody's anything technical.
Jody's doing that. Okay. So this one is looking great. I mean, do you want me to share my screen? I can.
Yeah, let's let a pro do it for sure.
Yeah. Trying to stay in the let's see, Jodes.
All right. So I really like this chart, especially looking at the daily chart here. It's been like a nice little like it's basing and then breaking out, basing, breaking out, basing, retesting again, breaking out, and it's been basing quite a bit. And yesterday was the first time it kind of broke out. I was hoping there would be a nice little gap up here on Reddit, but then I was also looking at this 9 EMA curling up towards this trend line, that the neat clean break here on Reddit. So today, as we have seen, obviously people might think this is a coincidence or whatever, but obviously it is holding on to that trend line and also that 9 EMA right here on the daily. And once I'm optimistic, or I was more optimistic about this closing above 180 today would be a better deal here. But then I think 200 is a very fast move here on Reddit coming up soon. And like the catalyst that you also mentioned, Avi, that those are pretty important as well to talk about. With Anthropic also trying to go public, they want to settle that deal with Reddit before they go public. So that can be a big news for Reddit. And also, I think Reddit and Google are going to partner much deeper into community nodes kind of thing. As this AI generated content becomes more and more mainstream, Reddit is the place to go, where user generated content is being it's more organic traffic in a way for Reddit. So I think Reddit has that move towards that 200. I don't know when that happens, but definitely that 180 level is something that I thought we would like recapture today. It didn't happen yet. We still have an hour, but a 2.5 point move, pretty easy for Reddit to do. But if it does do that, I think there's a very fast, quick move towards that 204 to like 215 area. Look at how thin the structure here is. This 180 level has acted as support previously in the past. Right now, we are just hovering over there to recapture it right now with Reddit.
What options plays? Because I'm looking July 30th, I believe, is their next earnings report. Are you playing after the earnings, or?
No, I think we can definitely play the run up for earnings for 7/17 expiry. We can definitely go after like the 220 calls on Reddit going into July. That's something that you can look for, or you can also play the weekly options. Weekly options, I'm looking at something like 185 calls for this week expiry. If it does have that run because of this peekaboo kind of setup and then holding that trend line here, usually something like this, it usually has to gap up. But if it doesn't gap up and is like holding that trend line that it has broken very cleanly, like what Reddit is doing, usually the day after the momentum kicks in for a much faster move to break that 188 level. So I am thinking we would probably see that 188, 196 levels again this week. So that's why I'm like kind of optimistic about playing the weekly option. So 180, 185 calls either or, you can play them for this week as well.
Love it. The other one was Intel. They had the breaking news. I think it was like 241 million, if my memory is correct. It was in the money call, but someone has that for September, which was crazy.
Yeah, I mean that 140 call. Well, the 140 call. Yeah, they did a. Yeah, there's quite a bit of move there. I was looking at this last Friday. It was breaking out. It hit that all-time highs and got smacked right back down. Right now, I want to see this trend line not being violated like this right now. I would want Intel to close somewhere around 121, 120.80 to 121 zone today. But if it doesn't, I would stay away from the weekly options. But then I am very optimistic that Intel might hit that 151 zone by August September timeframe.
Yeah, I mean, I like them long term. That was one of the Trump calls. Has gone up 180% since February. Intel's Xeon 6 processors were quietly selected as the mandatory host CPU for NVIDIA's next gen Rubin systems.
Yep.
So their earnings date is July 23rd. Are you looking to play this one then over the next couple of weeks?
Next couple of weeks. Yeah, I want to see where this thing closes and probably look for some place next week or so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to go on with something like Intel. I feel like it has to be on the short list of if Trump ever follows through on investing in AI companies. I don't know if that's where it's, his thesis going into the midterms is that Democrats are going to use the anti-data center sentiment, the AI sentiment, that jobs are being cut. Robinhood, I think, made cuts today. There's been a few more software names that have been making cuts. So I think as part of his thesis is like a public wealth fund that owns part of these companies, owns the growth in AI. I don't see a list where Intel isn't part of that. It's not gonna have TSMC. It's gonna have, maybe it has some TSMC, but really it's gonna be American companies.
I absolutely agree. I think it's mostly going to be American companies, and I really love the fact that he's one of those. Like, obviously, everybody has their views. I like some of his where he's talking about the public wealth fund, like most other countries do. Like Norway does it, Saudi Arabia does it. Like many European countries do it too. Like with their pension fund, Canada does it. Why not America do it too, right? Like, why leave it to the public? Why leave it to the public sector? So,
At least for me, looking at just my own portfolio, I'm like, I always want to have some type of exposure to any name it could be on there, because you're going to kick yourself because it's been the Trump trade for the last like 6 months of like, if he says something like oil and is like going to get oil down, then, don't overthink it. Just do something very simple. Just, buy some Intel, leaps or something. And it's, you're not going to hate yourself if it doesn't play out.
Yeah. I mean, look at it, right? Like, this is something that I always talk about, always, follow the person who is right until he's wrong. I see people talking about Michael Burry. They talk about Kathy Woods. They talk about Tom Lee. Guys, how many times in the past have they failed me? I can't even count, right? Like they have failed me multiple times. I've yet to find where Trump's thesis has failed me. So as long as it's not going to fail me, I'm going to follow what he says. Doesn't matter what my political view is. Doesn't matter what my view of a person he is. None of that really matters as long as you're trying to make money, and that's what you are in the stock market for. He has been absolutely right, bang on since he has become the president. So
yeah. And that's the thing with like insider trading. Like, I think there's a lot of, the guy that participated in the military strike in Venezuela, he got indicted because he had, made a trade on like Polymarket Okalshi around Maduro getting taken out. But I think Trump's telling the entire public of just what to do. And he's probably telling his friends and family, just do what I say. Like, and we're going to try to find a way to make that reality. And, it is public info. He's making it public info.
Exactly. I mean, people can crib about insider trading or whatnot. I mean, if it is insider trading and the president is giving me that information,
doing outsider trading. He's he literally, yeah. I mean, we were just talking about this at 12:30 slot. We were saying that like you can't be mad at him and then turn an eye to Nancy Pelosi or all these other politicians that are actually like insider trading. Mm-hmm. Trump is doing it, but he's public about it. He's like telling everyone what to buy, when to buy it. Yeah. So I agree. You don't want to mess with the tiki there. Google. So sorry, earnings on that is July 23rd. They had a monster beat last quarter, which is 29 EPS versus expectations of losing a penny. Google, to combat the macro slowdown, tech giants are entering a hyper-aggressive AR arms race. Alphabet just updated, as I mentioned, the 2026 capital expenditure guidance upward by $5 billion. Single-year AI infrastructure spending to $180 billion to $190 billion. So pretty wild there. As we mentioned, I've always said this, like eventually I think Google should win the AI war based off of how much money they have and how much, 25 years of LLMs basically within trillions of emails, trillions of searches. They have so much data that they can eventually bring to surface. But Google is well beyond that too. They have a million different things going on. But they are breaking out of your chart here. Looks like.
Yeah, exactly. So this was on my radar last week too. Like on Friday, I was looking at it, rejecting the trend line, but then it obviously gapped over on Monday. Today it's holding pretty well too. Like I think it's up about 1%. Calling this the resistance at around 373, 374. But then once this thing breaks, I do think let me zoom in a little bit too. Obviously, this dip has been because of the capital raise, stock issuing, or whatever that's happening. They've had some pretty nasty sell off. But then after this hammer candle, we are seeing the acceptance of price, and now we are seeing a much higher move after breaking out, supported by the 9 EMA. Obviously, the 9 and the 20 EMA are flipped. I do see that once this 9 EMA crosses over the 20 EMA, there's a very fast move towards that 383 to 394 level that comes out on Google. Like I said, a long-term perspective, Google will definitely be the winner of AI, in my opinion, given their data, given their scale of investments too. Like you think about Google is not just a search company, right? Like this is something that I've been talking about since people have been talking about OpenAI being the killer of Google. Yes, that's their core business, obviously, but then they are so diversified. Google itself can be talked about as an IPO, like an ETF, right? They have Waymo, they have SpaceX, they have this, they have that, Claude, they have everything. Like it's a solid company with a lot of good investments in it, in my opinion. So Google, I think it is going to win the AI race with respect to the sheer amount of data they have. The second one is their TPUs. That is something that has been really mind-blowing to many people that are using them as well, which competes with NVIDIA directly in a way, where I also see Meta trying to pivot into creating their own chip, which competes with Google TPUs as well. So there's going to be that coming out from Meta pretty soon. I think I was scrolling through some of these career pages on Facebook. They are hiring pretty aggressively on the for electrical engineers, especially chip design engineers as well. So I think that's coming out on Meta pretty soon. So I think when it comes to user generated content, Google and Meta obviously are the front runners, and those two will obviously win the AI race when it comes to content and content creation.
I got a question in general for any stock here on the charts. When a day like yesterday happens, does it not invalidate a lot of this, where it's just like maybe during the COVID, when COVID happened, or 9/11, like they obviously break off the trend lines. Yesterday was like a big news catalyst with the war. Do you ever are you a little bit more cautious with those breaks then in general, or it doesn't matter?
I mean, it depends on what you're talking about, right? Like if you're looking at shares, I would definitely, like when there's a break like this on any pullbacks towards that 366 area or the retest of the trend line, I would sell CSPs, right? If the break is like huge and then you're holding stock, covered calls is the way to go. I would never chase naked options per se on a gap up like this. I would always look for a retest, but CSPs and covered calls are your best friends when something like this kind of breaks out and you're holding long-term positions.
No, it's interesting. What was the other one? Bloom Energy, I think we wanted to touch on.
Yeah, Bloom Energy. This is a great stock.
I'm gonna grab a water real quick, but I'll be right back.
Which one?
This is a big Leopold Aschenbrenner stock. I think his biggest position for a while.
Yeah, so this one, this was I wanted to talk about this because it's a great stock. Every pullback towards the trend line, you create those trend lines for yourself, and then like I've been trading this ever since it was at around $80 or so, or 110 was when the entry was, and then we've been riding it. But like this thing, every single time there's a pullback, just look for those basing kind of thing, like a double inside day or an inside day or something like that, and then it just rips higher. So right now, if you're also trying to play options trading on BE, this is actually a peekaboo kind of setup. This is one of my favorite setups. Obviously 300 was rejected today, but it's still a very valid chart. The 9 EMA is curling above the 20 EMA. Probably not the 618 calls, but then you can probably look for like 330, 340 calls for like 626 and play them for the upside. But once that 300 kind of breaks, it's going to rocket up towards that 338, 350. I mean, some people, I have seen this quite a bit on Twitter, where people say, okay, you know what? Let me look at showing this. They'll say this is a head, this is a shoulder, this is a head, and this is a shoulder. But then this is really not a shoulder unless and until this trend line breaks. I'm not really looking at this particular thing being a head and shoulders per se, right? Like you need to see this trend line break, and I've seen this quite a bit, especially in trading and being on social media for the last 4 or 5 years. Is people anticipate a head and shoulders like this on a strong stock, and they get absolutely wrecked because head and shoulders don't work in a bull market like this, especially with momentum stocks like BE, where there's quite a big impact, quite a big bit interest in it, and also there's a lot of catalyst in it as well. BE, I think the CEO also came out and said they don't have to do any stock sales in the near future to meet the demand, which is a huge catalyst for the stock as well. So I think this one breaks 300 pretty soon.
They just said, oops, sorry, dropped my mic. 61% of AI data center developers are now planning to build their own off-grid power plants. They popped 5% on that news. Their next earnings also is on July 30th. So, yeah, that's one that I see a lot on Twitter, and people are always like, "What's the next BE?" And it's a similar conversation with like Tesla. It's like, well, what's the next Tesla? Like, there are other companies that kind of do it, but BE, Bloom Energy, is its own beast. And yeah, you pick those winners and you keep riding them. I feel like.
Yeah.
Another loud one on Twitter, Nokia. From just the chip side, are you paying attention to it? Is it just something that, a nostalgic stock? Everybody knows Nokia, and they want them to be the next like ARM or the next Marvell, MRVL, but I don't know. I haven't really dug into viability of it.
I think Avi asked me this. That's why I have this trend line here. But for me, Nokia, from back in the day of 2022, Nokia seems like I think it's a meme stock. Let me see.
Oh, it's like it's in the same bucket as BlackBerry for me, where it's like they have some cool tech. They're an old name that people love.
Yeah,
it happened. I was in BlackBerry at like $2-3, and then kind of gave up on it after a while. Same thing always happens, right? Like as soon as I sold, it started ripping. I did sell my Nokia calls yesterday for that reason. I was like, all right, the hype around it felt like it died off a little bit, and so I was fine. I got like 40% off that and took the profits, but.
Yeah, I just don't see the hype around it. And also, if you look at the daily, it did break down, right? Like it was holding this trend line quite a bit, and then it just died down. It's finding it very hard to like break this trend line here, and now it's like almost creating like a bear flag again. Like you can see that there's this flag right now. How do I know this is a bear flag? You just take the fib extensions. Oh, okay.
Awfully close there.
Yeah. So, like if you take, what the hell? What am I doing wrong?
This is the swastika.
There you go. Okay, there you go. That's the one. So if you look at that, we are still under the 0.38 to 38.2, which basically tells me that this is still a bear flag. Yeah, given the hype, I just don't see a reason why you would be in calls for Nokia right now. Technically speaking, I just don't know anything with respect to the fundamentals of the stock. So I'm just talking pure chart.
Let's before we go to we actually put it in Cisco, or I put it on Cisco at the end. So Cisco Equinox announced a massive expansion with Cisco NVIDIA to roll out pre-built Cisco Secure AI. Officially drove Cisco stock to an all-time high of 120, 91% gain over the past year. I remember, I think it was last week or the week before, you liked long-term dated. What is it looking at now? Did it?
So again, I'll say that if you believe MRVL is a $1 trillion company, Cisco will be a $1 trillion company too. So if you don't believe that, this is not going to be a $1 trillion company. But overall, I think connectivity is going to be a big theme in AI. Obviously, we did play this range expansion here. This was the box that we were talking about, went all the way to 130. I was hoping this one can move all the way up to 134, but then premature pullback based and trying to break out again. Monday it gapped up, obviously, and no, this actually was the move on Friday. I don't actually like this move because it's not really clean, but then it's retesting this trend line. It can stay here for some time before it kind of catches a bit again back. But once that 130 breaks, it can go all the way up to like the range would be somewhere around 160 to 165 kind of thing on Cisco. But I don't know how long it would take for it to do it.
No, I'm on 1218s, my 150s, I think. Yeah.
150s. Oh, that should be okay to hold.
Yeah, I'm down 30% on them, but I have not sold. I still like it. What else did we have today? We were gonna go through Google, Cisco. We hit did we hit them all? All the ones you wanted to touch on?
Yep.
Jody, you got any or anyone in the audience want to do one or two more?
Always for the audience. What else is something big we're looking at? FCell. Last week you were talking, Avi. Who was it? Was it Friday?
Yeah, that was last. Yeah, it was last Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a good company actually, but then it's been beaten down after COVID run, right? Like I think it had a COVID run.
Yeah.
And then it got beaten down. Yeah. Oh my goodness, this was in 2014, so it just was reverse splitting, and then had the COVID run.
This was one that did like I actually ran it because someone tweeted out, what's the next Bloom Energy, and I ran it through 4 different LLMs, and 3 of the 4 had come out with FCell's thing.
Yeah.
But it still said like Bloom Energy is its own beast. Like that's still the best stock.
That's such a drastic chart change as you zoom out in 2020.
Yeah. Look at that.
The inverse of NVIDIA.
At its peak, it was about $20,000 a share.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, they did reverse split or something.
Yeah. They did reverse split. I think they were reverse splitting all this while.
That is crazy, though.
I mean, I'll be honest. Until I saw this one here and saw that they were probably reverse splitting, I was interested in the stock, but then now I don't like it because if a stock is reverse splitting like that, it definitely means there's something shady going on with their financials, in my opinion. So
yeah, that was the one of the 3 that I didn't get behind. With the other ones, now I'm blanking on it. What was I need to remember. VPG. That's what it was.
Oh, I love VPG.
VPG was one that was like a 2020 stock we were talking about back in the day, and then I was in it, and of course sold too early, and then it takes off.
Yeah, you sold it too early. I remember you.
I did make gains on it, but it's my thing. I like to get out early. As soon as I get out, everyone else needs to buy, because as soon as that happens, it just rockets.
So this was where you told me, Avi.
Yeah.
This was where you told me. I still have the text, and because all my family bought it.
Well, that's
like literally everybody bought it at 25.
That's incredible. No, I think
wait, so you recommended that stock to your family, but then Avi wasn't.
No, Avi was the one who pinged me. He was like, "Dude, take a look at this stock called VPG. It's an Indian CEO. Most of my friends are getting in. Blah blah blah." And then I was like, "Oh, this is robotics, and like I kind of like what the company was pitching." And then so I was like, "Okay, let's just invest into it." And then I told all my family, "Go do this." And then I don't know why I told all my family too. I think we went on a vacation or something.
10 Teslas later, you guys are chilling now. Now what's cool about them is
all of us sold it, like somewhere around here.
Yeah, I mean, I still like it as a company. They're basically doing the touch sensors. Like if any robotics, they'll be able to do the touch sensors. And that was like trying to break down. If you think about a robot, like all the different elements, like Halston kind of be like the eyes to it. This would be like the fingertips to these robotics. So it's like downstream. Everyone's looking at Tesla robotics and some of these other big companies, but picks and shovels of pretty much.
We got to pull up Proud Indian. Is it too late to buy SpaceX with the stop loss?
SpaceX.
We started the show with it. I was Avi's been rubbing it in because I
would not even.
I was saying stay away. I think we have a YouTube video where my face is on it saying don't.
Oh, I'll tell you this right now with the information I know. I know some of the big hedge funds and some of the big guys I know personally are into September puts on SpaceX, and they boat loaded the crap out of those puts. So I'm not in it. I don't know anything about it. They just are in with, like, I know someone who's in with 15 million on those 175 puts in September.
Well, so that's when they. Let me find this.
I think August is when the expiration on the holding is.
Yeah, because I was telling Jody I gotta find someone. There's a bunch of people. Here it is. Perfect. 1 second. Some little alpha for you guys. All right, here we go. Is this popping up?
Which one?
All right. So yeah, the IPO date, 5% float. August 11th is that first wave of unlocks.
Yep.
20%. So 25 total. And then you guys see August, September. So that they're at about 40% or 46%, whatever date they did in September. But
I think if you're like really looking for SpaceX buys somewhere around like 115 to 135, that's the range that you want to look into.
I mean, are you good till August 11th? On the upside?
It can probably flag here, right? Like you can probably see like an upper limit at around 240 to 260. That's how much I would expect based off. I'm saying this not because of the charts. I'm purely basing this on options flows that I'm seeing. So you can probably see at most up till there, and which basically tells me there's not much risk reward there. I mean, to the downside, you have like a huge fall way that can happen. So,
yeah, I also don't think people are going to wait till the 11th. Like I feel like people will start selling a couple weeks earlier in anticipation of this. Yeah, if you're working at SpaceX, it's like janitors. That was the cool thing that Elon did. He like gave everyone shares, right? Which is so cool. So like engineers, janitors, they're now making life-changing money.
Mm-hmm.
You look them in the eye and say, "Don't sell," like right? Like they're gonna probably take a good chunk of that. But
I mean, I think this is one of those. It feels like a very retail-driven run. It's just incredibly. There's so much excitement around it, and it's just bringing in a huge meme stock culture that it just seems ripe for a short. Not saying it's a horrible business long term. Like I definitely believe it'll do well long term, but it's just does it need to be 220 or whatever it is now? I don't think so. I don't think 2.7 trillion is a good valuation.
Justifiable, in my opinion. Yeah.
I'm gonna make a good tweet. It just beat it just took over Amazon market cap. So I need to make a tweet. You guys are hearing this tweet. I'm gonna find a side by side of revenue versus the market
versus
cap.
Amazon. That's that's good content. Like
exactly. Right? Like Amazon makes more
Real-time
revenue.
information.
Meta makes more revenue. Why the hell is it more valuable than both these companies, right?
Yeah.
We're living in a fake world. Like how does, and Elon's sitting there, I mean, of course he's going to tout his stock, but he's saying it's going to go to 100 trillion or 10x from here. So that's pretty wild.
I mean, in my opinion, the way I look at it is market has no way to identify the future market for space because they don't know what's valuable and what or where the applications of space explorations can go. Like what Elon is saying the other day was, I'll be at a $10 trillion, net worth, but then a dollar would not have as relevance as it is today because at that point we would just work off mass and energy, right? So I mean, I think the market just does not know where space exploration can go, and this is just overhyped right now. That's all.
Yeah, well, I think it's the connectivity. I mean, like think about Starlink, right? Like Starlink is an amazing company. Helped a lot of people where they didn't get any internet, and if you can, basically you could monopolize that in many senses. But then that's another thing, right? Do the feds come in and say this is monopoly? You can't have full control of communications,
Yeah.
And so it is fascinating.
I don't think the government's going to allow. Yeah, I think at some point it's not always going to be profitable if the government decides, look, space is something we don't trust private companies with rockets as much as we trust ourselves.
Or political climate too. Like, I think people are spiteful, and he was Trump's buddy. So if he's not going to be, so that could happen too, right?
Yeah.
It is interesting, but you gotta love Elon. Like I'm a Elon. I'm not like a crazy fanboy, but when people hate on him, I'm just like, guys, like he's created the coolest companies, even if they're not all his ideas. Like he made the ideas a reality, right?
And I think that's where like exactly why we want to talk about it on a live stream is because we could be like KT and I could be like, hey, we believe in Elon and think he does. I mean, obviously KT has a Tesla and you're a Tesla bull, but things are too overvalued and people need to separate price from is something good or bad.
Exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, he's making money. I need to make money too. It doesn't just because I support him and I love him doesn't mean I'm going to throw my money at him, right? Like, I'm not going to do that.
No, it's fascinating. Anything else, Jody or KT, that you guys are eyeing here for the rest of the week, next couple of weeks here?
Mini monster. What's your mini monster, Avi and KT?
What did I
don't know. I mean, I think we are just going to go. I'm just going to toot on what Trump said. Dow is going to 100K. So I don't know when that's going to happen, but then the market seems to be going up. So choose your stock and just keep riding it out.
All right, one last stock I need you to ask about, NBIS, because that thing NBIS is keeping my portfolio afloat when I try to do some crazy options. What are we doing here?
Oh, this is a great stock. Like, I think 300 is on the charts on NBIS. CRWB is also looking like it's trying to break higher. So both these stocks are trying to move higher as we talk.
Hold on, I think you're off the screen. I gotta see it.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I'll stop. Ready.
Sorry about that. Okay, there. I think NBIS looks great. It's retesting that all-time highs again. 300 is something that we are looking at. I think we talked about this last week also, Avi. It's like flagging, and it gapped up. It did what it did on Friday, and then it's moving much higher. This is something that I would expect from a strong momentum stock like NBIS. This is something that I'm expecting of Reddit also to happen in the next 2 to 3 days. But yeah, NBIS looks great, $300. Finally, I'm also seeing CoreWave getting that bid up today. trying to break up higher. I think this one is ready to move higher as well, probably to that 125 to 126 zone again.
Yeah, there was news that I forget if it was Google or one big company came out and said that they're going to just have to like continue to rent, and they see that happening for a while. But it's one of those, like I've been such a fanboy since like the 50s or 60s, right? And I'm nervous. Like we'll see what happens, how it plays out over the next 2 years. My gut feeling is that there'll be some new technology or some way for the hyperscalers to do this themselves or have it built out. I hope not. I'll keep this. I did trim maybe 10% of my position, but I'm happy I kept it, most of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think with Mini Monster, I'm going to go with FCell. Took a position in them. I really enjoyed the guest that we had on last Friday, and I think access to power, that Leopold Aschenbrenner situational awareness fund, it's still very relevant.
Mm-hmm.
The Bloom Energy, is a smaller Blue Energy. I think it's still something to expose yourself to. But I'm also very curious about SpaceX puts for September now. I think that's going to be my research project today.
But part of me says it's too obvious, though, too. So, like, I hate when, and then that is something that I've started to feel with stocks. As soon as everyone starts talking about it, the asymmetric bet there is kind of getting over, right? And now with SpaceX, it's pretty well known that these cliffs are going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm probably staying on the sidelines. To be honest, I can talk my way both directions. Inherently, it feels like it should go down, but because everyone thinks that, it's almost one of those things where
just to make us feel dumb.
It's like it always happens, right? You look at the headlines, whatever the headlines are saying, go kind of opposite, I feel like. I feel like funds, don't you think hedge funds like pay all these writers to,
Oh, 100%, 100%. Yeah.
What's you got any? Yeah, you don't, maybe not a mini monster, but you have one in your head that not a lot of people are looking at right now.
Right now, I'm trying to be a lot more cautious. Right now, I really like Reddit. Reddit is one thing I'm looking at for a move towards that 200 target. That's something that I'm looking at right now. Oh, it actually popped while we were talking. Yeah.
I finally thought I got sick of you just buying these while we're talking, and then I did buy some on that.
Full disclosure for the audience is we're talking about it. I'm probably buying it. I'm probably buying it at the same time, and my eyes are on this screen. But we stand behind what we say.
Yeah, we're doing the Trump. We're in real time.
Yeah.
I mean, the other stock that I really think will move in the next year, a month or so, will be NOW. Keep an eye out for this one too, because they talked about some kind of uncertainty with respect to the instability in the Middle East once the peace deal is signed, and those are squared off. I think this is one stock that can pop again like 15 to 25% pretty easily going into the end of the year. So this is a great stock to own as well, around the 98 to 100 zone.
I did get an email back from the CEO of Rivian, and he said he's down to come on around like September. I think he said he's got to get their earnings, and then right around the launch of the second car. So that'll be exciting. I'll invite you on that one, since you brought that back on my radar. And then Qualcomm CEO as well did respond, said he's interested. And so
that's amazing.
Working on scheduling that one too. Yeah. So you're still our biggest guest here, KT. Yeah. This is Qualcomm right now.
Yeah.
That looks
they're executing. I think they bought another company today.
Yeah, he was the headline speaker at in Taiwan. I think they had a huge conference, and he was like
Qualcomm CEO.
Yeah. It wasn't a Qualcomm event. It was like kind of the who's who of
Computex. Was it Computex?
Yeah.
I think it was maybe Taipei. But anyways, cool. Anything else on our radar? Anything?
I'm gonna talk tomorrow a little bit more on the AI show about Robinhood's MCP connector, which I just installed yesterday. I think it's fascinating. You're taking, say, Hermes agent, OpenClaw agent, and you just go to the terminal, and you actually just go to Telegram, tell it to install the MCP agent. You authenticate your Robinhood account. Robinhood will then allow you to create an agentic account, which allows the agent to basically control your account, make trades, and then you can also it can go in and like you need to move capital over to it. So I moved like $500 over to it. So I'll share a little bit more on that process. It can also, which I was very excited about, it can't trade on your behalf in your margin account, at least at this time, but it can read your margin account. And so that is what I'm excited about, because now I set up 2 cron jobs in the morning. It'll go in, look at all the Greeks on all of my positions, and then say, hey, this is decaying. This is major theta risk. You're losing 3,000 a day in this position. Please take profit, like begging you to take profit. Or it'll be like, do you really think these options that are like beaten up have any chance? And it's challenging you. So you can do that with Claude, with Hermes, with OpenClaw, with ChatGPT, Codex, all of those.
Hermes is Robinhood's LLM?
Yeah, so it's not their LLM. They're just allowing you access to data and full control in the account.
Jody, I'm going to give a quick shout out here to our friends over at Arch. If you want to find one more predicts, like a fun predicts for Sniper before he goes, we'll be back here in 30 seconds, 28 seconds roughly. My computer is not working here. What is going on? Worst timing. Hang tight. Here we go. There we go. All right. So we are talking stocks today, but I know a lot of our listeners are Bitcoiners. And if you bought Bitcoin, you've held through the noise. You've seen, the last thing you want to do is sell at this point. We're here in September, October, not financial advice, but it feels like Bitcoin is reaching hopeful bottom. And things cost money still, right? You might have a tax bill, a big opportunity, a house. If you're a Bitcoiner, the last thing you want to do is actually sell your Bitcoin. So borrow against your Bitcoin instead of selling it. Get your cash today. Never trigger a taxable event. The collateral stays 100% yours if qualified, insured, bankruptcy, remote custody. Check them out today. They have the lowest rates today on archlending.com/daily stack. Our partnership gets you an additional 1% off their lowest rates. So check them out. And Jody, our love for our other friends over at Predicts. This is a fun one. It's a Bitcoin only predictions market. And the guys over there are awesome. And if you're a Bitcoiner, it's fun. You can start as low as like the equivalent of 10 cents. Is that right? It's like 10 sats. You're on mute right now, by the way, Jones.
Oh, sorry, I got the 3-year-old screaming. It's like 50 cents. It's very cheap. You're using Lightning. What we will share is we're going to get deeper in the World Cup. So stay tuned for this. I think the fun thing is also cultural things, which is next treasury company to sell Bitcoin. So there's a lot of spiciness on Twitter in the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks since Sailor and Strategy sold Bitcoin. So this has been a good one to follow. A really good way to play it instead of just playing options on the MSTR is just be like, you create a prediction market that's solely around like, okay, is Sailor going to buy again? Is he going to sell again? Like making your feelings known and not be part of the entire stock movement that you're betting.
Good way to hedge, dude. For Sniper though, I think there was a $50 will oil touch $50 in 2026. I think I saw. So
oh wow!
Oil. Yeah, sub 50.
Look at the
Yeah.
What would your guess be?
I would probably guess around 85 to 90.
85 to 90. So hit that no button.
Yeah.
Quick 30%.
That's pretty. We like the thesis of it going down, but I don't think it's getting that far.
Yeah, there's too much demand from AI, data centers, and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, quick 30% if you don't believe it could happen on predict. What is the full website here? It predicts predicts.com or predicts.com as well. PREDYX. JT, always a pleasure, my friend. Hopefully see you next week as well. I know we're getting close to 4th of July too, so we may take off for America. But otherwise, we'll be back tomorrow, and Jody will be talking through that on Robinhood AI. Thanks, everyone. Go ahead.
We'll talk about it tomorrow. I'll save that for tomorrow.
Yeah, we gotta leave it for tomorrow. 12:30 Eastern. Follow us at Daily Stack HQ on Twitter, and make sure to follow Problem Sniper at Problem Sniper. Till next time.
Yeah, appreciate you all.